It's a Takeaway Tuesday here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Welcome in, my friend. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We've got Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side. T. Chains is with us each and every weekday on the audio side, producing and engineering our program. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league on a Takeaway Tuesday. We've got so much new content on the channel on Big 12 Radio. From Saturdays to Sundays, our Big 12 and NFL Draft preview series will continue. You can catch it each and every weekday again at noon Eastern, just the draft portion of our show, and then also at 3 o'clock Eastern. And then we also launch the All-State Across the Conference each Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which R.A. Timken is your lead host. Interviews with players and coaches from, in a nutshell, Olympic sports, but it's basically everything but football and men's basketball. You're talking to coaches and players, and it's a 30-minute program.
You got it, yeah. You hit the nail on the head there. Look at you. You are well serviced in this.
Who is the latest, most recent athlete or coach that you guys talked to?
Well, last week we talked with Kansas baseball coach Dan Fitzgerald.
And they're on a heater.
Kansas took 2 of 3 from Oklahoma State this weekend and is leading the Big 12 right now. And, yeah, I mean, it's been a remarkable ride for them. And, you know, I know we've talked about this, but the student section at KU for baseball games is just remarkable. I told Dan Fitzgerald that if Kansas is hosting a regional, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be in the student section. There's no place I'd rather be.
Especially in the student section. You can't just be in the ballpark.
No.
You have to be in the student section.
I will be in the student section.
Wear your fishing shirts because it's
Shirt
all
off.
the rage.
Shirt off.
Shirtless.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a K on the
Well,
front.
that's what's great about this one, too, is it's got the snap buttons. So I just...
Oh, yeah. It's
just a rip open, not one of these buttons you got to like, oh, let me over, under, in, and out. No, yeah, it's
you just
easy peasy.
rip apart that man bra in one motion.
That's right.
So, really great content, though. Super exciting to be adding more and more things to Big 12 Radio. So you can catch that Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got Texas Tech football coach Joey McGuire. He will join us here in about 15 minutes. We'll talk about everything in Lubbock. NC State just canceled a series with them. We'll ask him about David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez, and he makes some exceptional points. We taped it with him yesterday about how guys at Texas Tech, and I hadn't really thought about it until he brought this up, they play their best at Texas Tech. All of these transfers had an uptick in their production once they got to Lubbock.
Well, and our draft special today from Saturdays to Sundays will be featuring defensive ends, and there are certainly 2 guys that are a huge factor in that, David Bailey and Romello Height. Bailey, a top 10 pick. Romello Height, probably a day 2 pick. 2 guys that you know, set themselves up for success to be draft picks where they're going to get drafted based on their 1 year at Texas Tech. And, you know, under CJ Ayu, the defensive ends coach, who's now off to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Defensive ends, we highlight today, Texas Tech is a pass rushing factory. Also from Saturdays to Sundays, we highlight Houston and Utah. This is powered by Modelo. Houston has had a player drafted in 9 of the last 10 drafts and will definitely have a guy taken in this year's draft. Shahan Jayaraja from CBS will join us. Peyton Turner, defensive end for the Detroit Lions, who was drafted in the first round. He arrived on campus at Houston. Now, this was back when they were in the American. He was there until like 2020. He was a COVID prospect, but he was 217 pounds. Now he's 6'6", 280, just a bull-rushing pass rusher for what was the New Orleans Saints. Now he's with the Lions and playing for Dan Campbell, so super excited to talk with him.
Well, and he's also a cautionary tale for many of these guys that will hear their names called, especially first-round picks. You know, I mean, a first-round pick guarantees you a roster spot, certainly for 1 or probably 2 seasons. But beyond that, you've got to prove your worth, prove your value. And Turner had some injury issues. He's on his 3rd team now as a former first-round pick. So, you know, I know he signed a contract with Detroit, but, you know, he's potentially expendable as the guy that needs to put the work in order to, you know, make the roster. So, you know, the work in many ways for these guys does not stop once you're drafted. In fact, it gets way more difficult, way tougher, way harder. The work is only starting And for many of them who feel like, well, they've arrived, and I'm not saying this is the case for Peyton Turner. I'm just simply analyzing, for the former 28th overall pick, in what year was it?
He is going into his 5th year.
Yeah.
So I think 2021.
I mean, ideally, you draft a guy, and their 5th year is spent on the team that you drafted him, especially as a first-round pick.
Right.
So, and I want to say he was with the team after New Orleans before Detroit.
No, he's been with New Orleans, but he didn't start until this past season, like more than half of the games. He barely played his first couple of years in the league, and so it's kind of been a slow progression. But a fresh start, to your point. In the NFL lifespan, like the average lifespan is less than a year.
Yeah.
So many guys go through these teams, training camps, you get the preseason cuts, and then, to your point, very few get to that second contract. So that'll be fun. Peyton Turner, the NFL defensive end for now the Lions, played at Houston. All right, on a Takeaway Tuesday, let's get a couple takes out there before we talk with Joey McGuire. Robots and real estate. My first take is a viral post yesterday from a guard basketball player in the Big 12.
Okay.
So this post, apparently this player posted their new crib, their new house, they're a transfer coming into the league on Instagram. And it blew up. And it's all over Instagram, it's all over Reddit, it's all over Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. And like very split reaction from fans. This is ridiculous. How are players making this much money? Other fans are saying, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I lived in, like a shoddy apartment complex when I was in college. It's been very divided. But the punchline is that turns out to be it's completely fake. And the general manager of this sports property was all over it, posted to Twitter and said, this actually never happened. This was fake. And so the robot aspect is that I don't know if it was AI generated, but it looks very real. And my main takeaway is like, don't believe everything that you see in today's world. We had a little group text going between the three of us. I sent the tweet. You sent what I thought was the same tweet, but it was actually the this isn't real tweet. The follow-up, and I love that X is doing that. Say what you want about Elon Musk, but with X, they have fact-checking software, and it's very clear that this is AI generated and not real.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought this up because there's a picture of a really nice house, and then the caption "Sick'em," and it looks to be a IG story from the player who transferred to Baylor. His name is Caden Mingo. And so everybody's, taking off and running with the story that, hey, look, Baylor has provided him with NIL money and a ridiculously nice house. And so once that happens, it takes on a life of its own. And despite the community note tag on that post on X, people see and hear what they want. And you even will hear that in talking with people.
Excuse you.
Sometimes, whether friends or people I'll talk to, whatever, right? Like they will bring up, like, oh, you work in college sports, like this, that, and the other. Did you hear about this? And a lot of times it's like, well, that actually didn't happen,
right?
But yet, like somebody sees the story on social, and by that time it's too late. I mean, you almost believe everything you see, which is how in this world of AI, we kind of get taken for what we believe, and it's almost like we're going to be overcorrecting to live in a world where we believe nothing and we'll have no faith in humanity, and that all sounds horrible. So really either side of this sounds terrible. Either you believe everything.
That's that glass half full outlook.
Either you believe everything and you're wrong, or you don't believe anything and you've lost all faith in humanity.
And you're also wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what
place to be? But yeah, I mean, I would just say double check everything, and if you see something, maybe be a little bit cautious about how accurate it actually is. But as far as we know, Baylor has not provided a house to Caden Mingo.
Yeah, it's all fake.
In fact, if they did, they'd have probably a good chance to retain many of the players they've lost over the last few years.
Yeah, Tunde Yesufu's maybe rethinking
Yeah.
his decision if
Yeah.
he's living in a home like this.
Apparently that house is in Heath, Texas, which is 117 miles from Waco.
It looks like it's from Calabasas.
Yeah.
It's massive.
Except
You
for
know
the
what?
ocean. It's missing the ocean.
Just a little bit. Do you know what doxing is?
I think so.
Yeah, so basically my first thought was like this player just kind of doxed themselves. It's the actual definition is the act of researching and publicly publishing private or personal information about a specific individual without their consent with the intent to harass, threaten, or harm them. High-profile figures don't want people to know where they live. I would put athletes in that same category. Like, I don't think that these high-level collegiate or professional, but now it's the college kids, fans don't need to know where these guys live. Like, that could get really, really dangerous.
That's a great point.
And this, what happened here, whoever posted this, essentially, it's not necessarily doxing because, like, there's no intent to make this person a target, but it's more closer to, like, fraud. Posting a fake image to create this false impression of this kid's NIL package. Like, whoever did this could be in a lot of trouble if it's I don't know if it's the guy that posted it or what.
Right. No, I mean, it plays into the firestorm around NIL about how out of control it is. And, like, this notion of, oh, it's so wild, they need to rein it in and do something different that, makes it a little bit more equitable across the board. This is all just such a funny thing to me. Like, the idea of creating a level of equity across the board, which has really never existed in college sports, pre-NIL or otherwise. And, like, this pursuit of it. And then the other part, the second cousin to this, is, like, that all of these coaches, not to say that many of them don't care about the individuals, because they do, but, like, it's the second and third degrees for which they're willing to sort of entertain or go into for to be like, well, this is why it's bad because of that, that, and the other. And it's like you're bypassing a lot of positives just to go straight to all these negatives that, like, are, like, third level derivatives of this. It just, is there something incoherently wrong with the NIL marketplace? I would say no. Like, the market has got it out of control is a funny thing to say. It's because the market dictates, like, the market is in control. And the reality of the situation is, though there's thousands of players in the portal, the top, let's say 1 to 5% of players in the portal out of those 2,000 plus players that are in the portal, like, they're setting the market. And the reason for that is because teams want really good players, and they're incentivized to pay those players lots of money. That's market value, right? Now, the market may be being skewed by guys that are in the top 30% or top 40% of that 2,000 that are not getting offers, and they're saying that they're getting those offers. And maybe that's the part that sort of needs to be flushed out. But, it's just funny how this viral post sort of indicates a world that's, one, it's not reality, and two, not as, out of control, quote unquote, as you'd be led to believe.
Yeah.
But it plays into the idea that it's extremely out of control.
Right. And like the ESPN piece on Noah Fafita said that, his dad was quoted as saying he's already a millionaire and owns a home. I'm going to guess he owns a very nice home. I just looked at homes over like $900K in Tucson, Arizona. They are these massive mansions. So, like, these players are making bank. They're living in the veteran players who are smart with their money. Those are the guys, they are living in, like, NBA or NFL style mansions.
Well, and for Fafita, like, he could have gone and left and followed his coach, who he had a lot of success with as a true freshman, to Washington. So in that case, what was market value for Noah Fafita? Pretty high. I would imagine Jed Fish in Washington made a pretty attractive offer to him. And so in that case, like, you got to play the game. And so I would assume Arizona paid him. The other part to that is, like, we should be celebrating the guys that not only get paid, but then are, like, financially prudent with their money and, like, investing it properly in, like, real estate. And, hopefully, again, without going too deep into, like, Noah Fafita's, financials. Hopefully he, had somebody that helped him make some savvy investments aside from like the S&P 500, right? Like just basic stuff that helps your money grow year over year. That's going to grow much larger than it will if it's just in a bank.
Right.
So, I mean, these are stories we should be celebrating. But again, this goes back to like as the NFL draft approaches, I think the teams are going to start to have to sort of figure out which guys are just not as hungry anymore and which guys are. I saw former Big 12 offensive tackle went to Oklahoma, Trent Williams, signed another contract. And I think his career earnings are over like $400 million. And so he's the highest career earnings player in NFL history that's not a quarterback. And like that's the type of player that these NFL GMs need to be looking for. Guys that get paid and still have that hunger to keep being the best at their position.
Yeah.
Because some guys get paid and it's like, I'm out. I'm good. Yep. I'm all set. But a guy like Trent Williams it's proven every time. Teams pay him. They have to pay him. He holds out. He wants to trade. He's holding out for a longer contract, and they pay him. And then he needs to do it again because he's that good.
Yep. I remember one of the first conversations I had with Lige Douzable, who played over a decade in the NFL, comes on our show all the time in the fall, and was a all-league defensive end for UCF. Was just I could not wrap my mind around. He said, yeah, some guys are just there for a job. Like it is their job. It is their career. They don't know how to do anything else. They're big, they're strong, they're fast, and they go to work every day, just like everybody else who works a 9 to 5. They're going to work every day, just happens to be a professional football player. Those are the guys that aren't there for the love of the game or there because they have this deep-rooted passion for the sport. They're just super athletically gifted, and that is what they do for their work.
And I mean, think about it like this. There are some guys that grow up in situations, let's just say a lot of guys that grow up in situations where like their goal is I want to get out of this situation and I need the money to do that.
Yeah.
So if you're getting paid in college, you've achieved that goal. It's in many ways why many of these players, like when they were drafted, that would be the ultimate achievement of that goal, of getting paid, of taking the skill set that they've put the work in for such a long period of time to get to that point. And look, there's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, we all should find happiness in whatever it is that we do, but I think for NFL GMs and really quite frankly now college GMs too, they've got to parse through like who are the guys that are truly hungry even with being paid versus who are the guys that are just here to continue to collect paychecks. Because sometimes you can't tell which is which. And in some cases, you've got guys that are on like a second contract for a ton of money. And that's where it's like, all right, I mean, again, they've gotten paid. Are they going to still show up and play at the same level? Versus a guy that was maybe at a lesser level that's looking to get paid that then gets paid. And he's like, all right, I've arrived. I've made it.
Do you think that stuff shows up more on film or more during the interview vetting process?
I would say the answer is yes.
Right.
Everybody's different.
Exactly. Like Jacob Rodriguez, he's going to check the boxes in both. CBS has a mock draft, and it's the first 32 picks based off of college production alone. The safety, Caleb Downs from Ohio State, is number 1. Number 2 is Jacob Rodriguez. And it just blows my mind that this guy's projected to be early second. There is rumors that some teams in the first, including the Dallas Cowboys, are falling in love with Jacob Rodriguez, and the Cowboys might take him at 20 or trade back to take him at 25, somewhere around there if they can. And I'm thinking, okay, we know that part, right? Like he had a historic year for a linebacker, did things that nobody's done since Manti Te'o. So then I look at his combine numbers, and sure, he was 7th in the 40 time, but how much is 40 overrated for linebackers because they're never really running 40 yards in a straight line? But his 3-cone, his short shuttle, were both first among linebackers. And he was the best mover in the linebacker room at the combine, short, tight distances.
Which, by the way, makes sense.
Yeah.
And this guy, if any running backs got to the second level, he was erased, right? So his short area quickness is incredible, and his ability to, I mean, I think his smarts and intelligence are a part of that too. So it's interesting the combine numbers check out because you're not trying to like see what they're doing, diagnose what the play is in the combine and
right.
in the 3-cone.
Yeah.
So it sort of verifies what we saw on tape with him.
Yeah, that's
maybe
just
in some
raw
ways,
athletic ability.
right? And maybe in some ways diminishes, his ability to diagnose plays. Not diminishes, but like shows that it wasn't just that. It wasn't just the smarts that helped him be a tackling machine.
And with how good he was in college, I was waiting for the combine to see, okay, is he going to tank at the combine? Like, is that what we're missing?
Right.
And he did not. He did the opposite. He shined at the combine. So now I'm at the point where I don't care if somebody drafts him at 15, at 20, at 40. He's going to be like an 8 to 10 year starter in the NFL and just Mr. Reliable in the middle. Like, he feels like the fail-safest pick of just about anybody we've talked to. Maybe Spencer Fano would be the other one, offensive tackle, in this draft from the Big 12. And that includes David Bailey. Like, he's really explosive. He's really good. But in terms of, like, longevity and guys that have done it over the entire course of their career, I think Rodriguez is, like, a safer pick, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe not like a higher ceiling, but just safeness. If it's risk, reward, you know what you're going to get with him.
Well, and to me, though, this doesn't happen in every draft, and I don't know that Jacob Rodriguez will be a first-round pick, but if this would be the draft where it would make sense. First off, in years past, like off-ball linebackers are just not going to be taken that high. Now, there's some guys that might be considered that, but they're more versatile to be multiple positions, multifaceted. I don't know that Rodriguez is, but you know what you're going to get with him. I think this draft, and it's been said a lot, but I'll continue to say it, like, there's some elite players, but the majority of this draft are like high-level NFL starters, but everybody's got flaws, weaknesses that are glaring, that are going to probably, muddy the waters. I think there's a huge disconnect between the analysis of this draft and how it actually plays out. I think there could be a ton of trades, especially trades down, especially if there are guys that people fall in love with that fall a little bit. So I think that's a product of this draft more than anything else. Now, that's not to diminish Jacob Rodriguez as a player. I mean, we'll watch him just absolutely be one of the best defensive players, if not the best defensive player in college football last year. So that should stand for something. But it feels like, given the draft and just the lack of drop-off between, let's say, player 15 and player 40 or 50.
That's where it could be absolute chaos.
Right. I think draft boards across the NFL are vastly different, anywhere between 15 and 50.
And it seems like the linebackers that get taken in the first round are high-risk, high-reward guys. Whereas, to me, Jacob Rodriguez is like Nick Bolton 2.0, who the Chiefs took in 2021, late second round, 58th overall. He had over 100 tackles, like 3 years at Missouri. He was just a tackling machine. He's from Frisco, by the way, but he was 5'11", 237. He's had over 100 tackles 4 of his 5 seasons in the NFL and just had 154. Like, hasn't made a Pro Bowl, but he's just Mr. Reliable. He's all over the field, a tackling monster.
Well, and as somebody that watched both of them play college football, Jacob Rodriguez is a considerably better player.
In college, yeah. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Ton of draft talk today on Big 12 Radio. Coming up next, Joey McGuire, Texas Tech football head coach. We'll get an update on their recently completed spring game. We'll preview the draft, and then Shahan Jayaraja from CBS is after that here in this first hour of the program. This is Big 12 Radio. We are powered and brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by our friends at Modelo on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios.
Attack the defense with your mind. Here he is. One. It's a deep ball. Left sideline. Dropping it right in for Virgil. Oh, what a ball from Baron Morton. Derek Morris. There's a beautiful pass. I mean, that's a big league throw. That is a clinic again to Reggie Virgil for a first down.
This is a BB. Like, that is a difficult throw to make, and what a catch. Williams stays in, play fake. Morton well protected, spins one, end zone, caught! He drops it in the bucket. Coy Aiken reels it in, 42 yards. at the 1-yard line.
Already. Maybe the final play of the quarter. Morton, seam route, there it is, and it's caught for the touchdown. Caleb Douglas. And the route is on in Morgantown.
This is Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. We're joined right now by the head football coach of Texas Tech, Joey McGuire, joining us here on Big 12 Radio. And Texas Tech's spring game was moved up and was played on Friday so they can make way for George Strait to make his way into Jones AT&T, so that should be fun.
No, it's going to be great, man. The King's going to be in Lubbock. I love it.
Well, have you seen? I'm assuming you've seen George Strait.
I got to see him a couple years ago with Willie Nelson. So, I mean, probably one of my all-time favorite nights. I'm a huge country fan, and so probably my all-time favorite nights as far as concerts go.
What's your favorite George Strait song?
Oh, man. They Call Me the Fireman. I love that one.
Yep.
Amarillo by Morning, just because out here in West Texas, I can get to Amarillo a lot faster than I used to. But, those are two of my favorite. But my all-time favorite, and if you go to like 2008, 2009, 10, if I'm right, most of my guys can sing Troubadour, my Cedar Hill guys, because we would always start off practice. At the time you had CDs, so you'd burn a CD and we'd go on. We'd call it Turf and Tunes on Wednesdays. We'd go into the stadium and Troubadour was blaring.
I mean, it's funny you brought that up because you're right. Like, it's not one of the old classics; it's one of the newer ones. But it is. Yeah. I love that song.
Yeah, I still feel 25.
25.
Yeah.
I bet you do feel
I do
25.
I do.
Man, you've got that young man energy.
Yeah.
How did you guys do your spring game? Was it like ones against ones? Did you split it 50-50? I know Sorsby had a big day. Micah Hudson looks fantastic from what I've seen. How did you guys evaluate, or how did you split up the roster, I should say?
Yeah, we went ones versus ones, and it was like each period. Like, we started out with a call-it period, and Jet Carpenter scored a touchdown. When the first series with the ones, the defense, it was a 3-and-out. And then the ones came back out and drove the field. I mean, it was a pretty long drive, probably 12, 13 plays, and Jet Carpenter scored a touchdown from Sorsby there at the end. Then we went twos, and we went threes, and then it was all situations after that first call-it period. We had a 2-minute scenarios, an end of half, an end of game, and then we call it red zone lockout. And so the first one, that's how we ended the scrimmage. The first team to 18, offense versus defense, wins it. And defense had a hot start. Now offense came back, tied it up 12-12, and then they won it right there at the end. Micah Hudson made a big catch in the back of the end zone to win it.
What have you learned about Brendan Sorsby that maybe you didn't know about him when you recruited him?
Man, we played against him, and we won the game, but man, he lit us up. Like, he threw for like 400 yards, and then I would sit there, and as we were evaluating him, we knew he could run the football, but man, he's 235 pounds and can really run. There was one point in a 2-minute drill during spring, he pulled the ball down and probably picked up 20 yards, and I was like, man, that's got to be a little bit what like Josh Allen looks like running. I mean, Sorsby's a big man, and he really can run.
Coach, also saw over the weekend that NC State bought out essentially the series and the return trip to Lubbock. Like, when something like that happens, number one, why won't anybody play Texas Tech? I think we know why. But, what are the emotions is it frustrating, and what are the next steps when something like this happens?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the whole story behind it. That was Kirby can tell you. I don't know if it was something with their conference schedule. I always want to be those home and homes to be back to back. Like, you think about it. We played North Carolina State my first year, and then we didn't get to bring them to Lubbock that next year. And so you always want it like that. And the frustrating part, and I know Dave, and I know it's out of his hands, but the frustrating part is now you're searching for games, and then you're also searching, because that's a Power 4 team.
Right.
Now you're searching for a Power 4 team to play, here in Lubbock. And so it's a little bit harder to do, and that affected our North Texas game, because I was great going to North Texas with the number of home games that we had here. But then, now you're scrambling. I mean, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to go play somebody, a Power 4 team on the road, and we don't know that yet. And so that affected a couple of games.
Yeah. You were on with Bus and the Boys a couple weeks ago or last week, and it was a great interview. And you mentioned, that Texas Tech is a disruptor of college football. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, guys, I've lived my life in this world of college football, and I've always felt like, I've rooted for certain teams, but I was always that guy as a high school coach. Man, I rooted for wherever my players went, so I follow a lot of different places, and what we're doing, man, is being done at other places and not talked about. And it's been done for a few years. I mean, if you go back to Ohio State, whenever they won a national title, they had a pretty good payroll, and it was okay. That was fine with them doing that, and
right.
I also think there's a lot of different things, like if I'm one university and I'm recruiting against another university and I lose a player to that university, as long as it's somebody that I see myself equal as, it sucks, but I'm okay with it. Man, I can understand maybe that kid wanted to go to Ohio State, but they can't wrap their mind around that kid wants to be at Texas Tech. So there's a lot of things that have gone on that everybody's okay with, as long as the nobody rocks the boat. Now all of a sudden we're rocking the boat. We're trying to tip the boat over, and they're not okay with it, I just think it's kind of hypocritical. I just think it's one of those deals of like, Tech's not supposed to be able to do that, but it's been okay for the top 5 or 6 or 10 programs over the history of the sport to do it. And then now we're doing it. We're doing it at a very high level, and we're doing it the right way. And there's a lot of people that don't like it.
Yep, totally agree, man. You just echoed a lot of the stuff we've been saying and talking about. There's this narrative out there, and it's ridiculous, and it is hypocritical. I know Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, I just like what I love is whenever my guys, like they interviewed Trey White the other day, and Trey White could have gone anywhere in the country, and he chose to come to Texas Tech. And one thing he said, he was like, until you're here, you don't understand what's going on. Until you're in the building, you really don't understand what's going on. And we did not offer him any more money than what another 2 to 5 schools were offering him to come to Texas Tech. But whenever you walk into this building and you see the people and you see the facilities, and then we can share the same amount of money as anybody else, then there's a reason these guys are coming to Texas Tech.
Coach, I know we got a heart out with you, but real quick, what are some of the NFL scouts, general managers asking you about David Bailey and Jacob Rodriguez?
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I cannot wait till Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We're going to hear a lot of Red Raiders, and I'm proud of it. But, everybody, they always ask about personality and then how much they love football. That's the key. Guys are fixed to spend a lot of money on David Bailey, J-Rod, Lee Hunter, Mello Height, Caleb Douglas, Barron, Reggie Virgil, Skylar Gill-Howard. There's going to be a lot of names called. I think we're fixed to set a record for a 7-round draft at Texas Tech. And it's all about character, and it's all about how much they love the game of football. And our guys check those boxes. And, just to go back to what we were just talking about, all those guys played their best football at Texas Tech. Say whatever you want. You cannot argue that. Just turn on the tape. Because that's one thing, guys. Y'all know that. Tape doesn't lie. That's who you are as a player whenever you put that tape on. And they played their best football at Texas Tech. And so that's another reason a lot of guys are coming here, because they understand that we're going to put them in great position to play at a high level.
Great stuff. Yeah, the eye in the sky does not lie. A program record, 8 players invited to the Combine from Texas Tech. So should be a record-setting draft for Texas Tech. Wreckham, always great to visit with you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Sorry I don't have longer, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you very much. You're the best. Joey McGuire, Texas Tech's football coach, joining us here on Big 12 Radio. along with James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. Great stuff, as always, to visit with Coach McGuire. He's always extremely gracious with lending us his time and talking through some, interesting storylines. And, yeah, I mean, look, we'll continue to talk about it. Like, for some reason, everybody else spends money nationally. Texas Tech's, in the top 10 probably of money spent, but somewhere in the top 10, maybe the lower end.
Yep.
And nobody talks about the other teams in the top 10. It's always with Texas Tech, like, well, it's money. Oh, yeah? Where is it elsewhere?
They were on the lower end of the top 10 last year.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of teams spending more that weren't even sniffing the college football playoff. But Texas Tech was there because they bought their team and their players. It is hypocrisy. And I love the very specific example he gave of Trey White, who chose Texas Tech when he could have actually probably made more at other programs. But like Joey said, you don't understand it until you're there. In Lubbock, in the football complex, you see the culture and how they can get you to the next level. This NFL draft is going to be phenomenal for Texas Tech and the Big 12 to see all these guys getting drafted who had their best season. That's a great point. As he said that, I'm rattling off in my brain all these guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, they did have their best year at Texas Tech. Romello Height is a great example of that. Bounced around school to school, blew up at Texas Tech. He's going to get drafted.
Yeah, even David Bailey. You'd think he couldn't, get better, but the dude played his best football at Texas Tech. Lee Hunter, another guy. Mm-hmm. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. All right, our NFL draft preview continues with the from Saturdays.
Up to the field side here, and he's home again! Changing up the look. The result is the same for David Bailey.
56% on the year on conversions. Jackson's in trouble and down. David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
More on 3rd and 8. Pressure and they get to him. He is sacked by the best in the biz, David Bailey. 14 and a half sacks now on the season. On this possession, what a huge smack in the backfield again. It's David Bailey walloping Jamarian Burnett.
Work on an empty here. 3rd down and 9. Kansas State. Oh, goodness. Look out. David Bailey, the sack leader in the nation, gets home again.
Cam Pickett is much healthier now and running better. You see it there.
Oh, good night. David Bailey in a heartbeat. He graduated from Stanford in under 4 years, and he runs like this.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio on a Takeaway Tuesday, powered by Modelo. Just had Joey McGuire, Texas Tech. We'll see a bunch of guys get drafted in the NFL draft just 2 days away. Shahan Jayaraja, national college football writer, our good buddy from CBS Sports, joins us here on Big 12 today. Shahan, what's up, man? How's your spring?
It's been good. It's been good. Thanks so much for having me.
So I love your bold predictions piece that you did for the Big 12 over at CBS Sports and CBSSports.com. You have a bold prediction for each and every Big 12 school and Big 12 team. Let's start with Colorado. This is Coach Prime's final season. I'll let you break down what went into that Colorado bold prediction. That's probably the boldest when I look at all these.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, I will say, I feel like a lot of us have been making that prediction for a while, and I think that Coach Prime has committed himself to Colorado in a lot of ways, but there's a couple factors that I think will ultimately go into it. One is, I just think that this football team is going to struggle a little bit, right? Last year, of course, they go 3-9, they go 1-8 in conference play. They're not awfully competitive. They kind of get figured out, is even what Deion Sanders said about them. And they did a lot to try to shore up some of those holes. They brought in some players that I really like Leona Lafau, linebacker from Texas. But I just think that this is a team that, again, once again is going to struggle. I think once again is not going to be great in the trenches. And I think that it's going to force at some level Deion Sanders to ask himself, like, what are we doing here? What am I trying to accomplish? I got my big moment. Obviously, I mean, you can't ever take away that 2024 season, that 9-win season, Heisman Trophy. Like, it was storybook. But is that going to happen again? How likely is that to happen again? Do they have the pieces in place for something like that to happen again? I just think that those are tough questions that are going to be asked after the season is over. And I think that ultimately they're going to reach a conclusion that, you know what, maybe this was a great moment, but maybe it's time for a new adventure.
Could it go the opposite way, though, in terms of, it feels like Deion has done his best work when he's underrated or underappreciated?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you always, you can never count him out, right? Because he's so unorthodox in so many ways. But, I think that there's a couple things that would have to go right? Like, I mean, first of all, the obvious thing is that I think Julian Lewis would need to be not only a good quarterback, but would need to be one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12, like, right from the start. And I do like, by the way, they bring in Brennan Marion as offensive coordinator. I think that he's somebody who, frankly, could be a head coaching candidate very, very soon. I think that they've got some pieces on defense, but the thing about that 2024 season is that they had just an unbelievable, unmatched, really, connection between quarterback and wide receiver in Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Does that exist on this team? I mean, they lost most of their top pass catchers. I think that DeAndre Moore coming in from Texas definitely has a chance to be a big-time player, but he's not the kind of explosive, game-changing athlete that Travis Hunter was. Omarion Miller gone to Arizona State, Traylon Miller gone to Baylor. Like, it's just hard for me to see where does that game-changing connection come about, because I think that just with the way that Coach Prime's teams are structured, you need that high-level playmaking. I don't see it on this roster.
The other team that I really like your write-up on, and I like all of them, these are all great, but West Virginia, you note that West Virginia absolutely blitzes a contender as your bold prediction for them. And you noted that, don't be surprised if all the stars align in a matchup or two. And I look at their schedule, and it's really tough. Like 7-5 to me feels like a really good year. But I also think that team has done a ton of work this offseason, and they're going to be so much deeper at every position. So what's your take on West Virginia?
Yeah, this is a team that I think, we kind of talk about Rich Rod teams, that year one is often a feeling out process for them. And I think that it was, right? I mean, you obviously have that Pitt game, and then you have a lot of bad that came afterwards. But I really like what Scotty Fox showed in the latter half of the year. And by the way, they have Michael Hawkins Jr. coming over from Oklahoma as well. So, I think that gives them a couple different looks at the quarterback position. I wouldn't be surprised if they played both of them in different ways at different times. I think that also, I mean, a huge addition, maybe one of the most underrated additions of the offseason, Cam Cook is coming over to West Virginia. He was the nation's leading rusher at Jacksonville State. I think that he's going to be able to come in and add a really nice spark to that offense. And by the way, like, this isn't the situation of, somebody who was able to really beat up on lesser competition. This is somebody who was at TCU for a while and just couldn't quite make it, couldn't quite find a role for himself. Goes to Jacksonville State, obviously, again, becomes one of the best running backs in the country. He's got high-end level talent. I think he was a borderline 4-star recruit coming out of high school. And then I think that also, like you mentioned, the depth piece is going to be huge for this team. I mean, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where it was a little bit of an inconsistent group last year. I think that they're only going to be deeper. They're only going to be better. I like what they've done in the portal on the offensive line as well. So look, I don't know that it's going to be week in and week out being a great team, but I think that there are going to be moments where you're like, oh man, that looks like Steve Slayton out there. That looks like Pat White out there. And again, I really look at that Houston game late in the year. We haven't had a true Morgantowning in a little while, to be honest, where they go in the month of November and just suffocate a team. I think it's coming this year.
Shahan, a big year at your alma mater, Baylor, with DJ Lagway being added, and you, for your bold prediction, had Lagway near his 4,000 passing yards. And look, I mean, Dave Aranda is going to need a really good season this year to keep his job. Will they be good enough on defense, and what gives you confidence in Lagway?
Yeah, well, to talk about Lagway first, I mean, obviously, I think that they just had to make that kind of swing over the offseason. They needed, frankly, in some ways, anything to sell to the fan base after a pretty miserable 5-7 season. And I think the other thing too, I mean, let's keep in mind, right? Like, Baylor had the nation's number 2 yards per game quarterback last year in Sawyer Robertson. And I think that they're going to potentially lead on the passing game even more in 2026 because, just to be frank, like, that's their biggest advantage on offense is that quarterback position. So I think he's going to throw the ball a lot. I think he's going to throw it often. I think that also, I mean, you talk about Lagway. At Florida, he was playing in a kind of slow-developing, play-action offense. This is going to be quick decisions, spreading things out, much more like what he was doing at Willis High School when he was Mr. Texas football back in 2023, or I think that's when it was. So, like, I think that this is going to be a huge paradigm shift for him. He's just going to be a lot more comfortable in this role. Look, you mentioned it, right? Like, this team has actually been pretty good offensively, especially since Jake Spavital's come to town. It's been the defense that's been the issue. And I think that they've certainly identified some of those issues, right? I love the addition of Joe Klanderman as defensive coordinator coming over from Kansas State, where he was on Chris Kleiman's staff. I think he's going to bring a level of consistency that was not there before. I think that there is some talent across this defense. The big question for me is the same place that it's been for essentially the last 3 seasons, and that's on the interior defensive line. Ever since they lost Siaki Ika to the NFL, they just haven't had game-changing bodies on the interior, and because of that, they've struggled to run the ball or stop the run at a high level. And look, I mean, I think they've got a better level of depth in 2026 than they had in 2025. But I think that one of the most consequential waivers that we're still waiting on is that of Hosea Wheeler, who was one of the top rotation defensive linemen at Indiana during their national title run. He's looking for an additional season of eligibility. He committed to Baylor. He's on campus right now, but they don't know if he's going to be eligible for the 2026 season. If he's not eligible, I think that really puts a damper on what I think this unit could be.
Shahan Jayaraja from CBS and CBS Sports joining us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. How about a couple of first-year head coaches, Colin Klein at Kansas State and then Eric Morris at Oklahoma State, with the Cowboys just completing their spring game?
Yeah, I think that both are, one, just incredibly natural fits at their spots, right? Obviously, Colin Klein, I mean, I think that everybody kind of understands that Kansas State was like, look, if you're even thinking about retiring Chris Kleiman, like, we know the guy that we have to get before it's too late. And I think that Colin Klein's going to step in. Obviously, he wants to be there. He loves that place. He knows that place like the back of his hand. I think he's going to take great counsel from both Chris Kleiman and Bill Snyder about how to do this job. But I really am excited about him working with Avery Johnson. I mean, it was a miserable 2025 season for Avery Johnson, just very disappointing, certainly below anything that he hoped when he decided to commit here. And I thought that it was huge for Colin Klein to convince Avery Johnson that, you know what, stay on campus, I can get the best out of you. And I agree, right? I mean, obviously the connections between them as players is going to be, I think, big when you talk about Colin Klein being obviously a Heisman finalist and one of the most productive rushing quarterbacks of the past 20 years. But I think that also, I mean, you look at what he was able to get out of Marcel Reed as a passer at Texas A&M, and you know, Marcel Reed was not the most consistent of quarterbacks, and still Colin Klein called up some really good stuff. I think that he's going to be able to put Avery Johnson in some good spots. And obviously, when you talk about quarterbacks, I mean, that takes us right to Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. Just I think, a totally natural transition going from Mike Gundy to Eric Morris. And in some ways, now Eric Morris is a lot quieter. He's not going to do the whole, you know, sort of big talk. He's not going to do the "I'm a man, I'm 40" like Mike Gundy did. But I think that, like, I think that spiritually, these football teams are going to look and feel a lot like the best Mike Gundy teams. And obviously that starts at the quarterback position, landing Drew Mestemaker, also landing Wyatt Young, his top wide receiver in the portal, landing Caleb Hawkins, his running back in the portal, all top 50 players in the transfer rankings. That just is such a high floor for a team that was 1-11 last year. And I thought they did a really nice job of attacking the trenches in the transfer portal as well. Obviously, look, I think that there's only so much you can do to rebuild an offensive line in one cycle, but you know, I give a lot of credit to their GM, Raj Murthy, who came over from North Texas. I think that he's done a great job of being prepared for these moments. So, again, like, spiritually, culturally, like I think that this is going to feel a lot like some of those peak Mike Gundy teams, and I think that Oklahoma State fans are going to be really happy to see high-level offense coming back to Stillwater for the first time in nearly a decade.
Oh, yeah, totally. Man, Shahan, your stuff is always so good. Big 12 bold predictions for 2026. A bold prediction for all 16 Big 12 teams, breaking in newcomers with hopes of winning big over at CBSSports.com. Shahan, thanks for your time, man. Great to catch up.
Thanks so much for having me.
Shahan Jayaraja from CBS, CBSSports.com. One of the really advocates for the Big 12 over at CBS. Always has really, like, creative stuff. This is amazing. 16 bold predictions for all 16 schools. What was your number one?
Yeah.
Yeah, your number one?
Uh-huh.
Colorado?
Absolutely.
I knew it.
No, probably DJ Lagway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good find. All right, our NFL Draft series continues from Saturdays to Sundays. Big 12 and the NFL Draft. We highlight Houston and Utah today. Then we'll be looking at defensive ends before we talk with Peyton Turner, who currently plays for the Detroit Lions, first-round pick back in 2021. He's Ariam James, and this is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios, brought to you by Modelo.
Blitz coming, jailbreak, and they run the perfect play. It's small. He's big. He's down inside the 5 to the 1. BJ Payne tripped him up to save the touchdown. What an effort here.
And there it is. They fake the handoff and to the backside. And another tackle for loss at the 20, this time by BJ Payne. They tried to get the man on the edge on the far side, and VJ was having none of it.
And it's always about how you finish. Kobe Williams hit by Payne. Second down. And he'll make you pay. Handoff. Parker gets stuffed, stays on his feet, and now is going to go down.
12 play the drop. Hands off to Highshaw. Steps for an ankle tackle and rumbles below the 30. Finally got him to the turf.
Kansas State going to try and put some pressure on it. Floor steps up, floats one toward the end zone, does not have a receiver there. And that's an interception to end the half. BJ Payne with his first interception of the year.
Fourth downs this year. A big one in this second half. Brown stopped originally, and the ball comes out. Is the play dead, though? The whistles came after the ball came out.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We are all in on the upcoming NFL Draft. Our series from Saturdays to Sundays, Big 12 and the NFL Draft. We highlight two different teams every day. Yesterday was Arizona and Arizona State. Their outlook, guys that might get drafted, guys that might get signed as undrafted free agents. You can hear this series wherever you get your Big 12 Radio podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, right here, tune in on demand, and then we replay this part of the show each and every day here on Big 12 Radio at noon Eastern Time and then at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling.
I don't care what anybody says. You are a pro.
Well, the people don't say that.
I don't care what anybody says about you, James. You are a professional. You know that?
Your idea when we did things we would be top 10 picks in was maybe my favorite segment we've ever done on this show. There is major creativity piercing through your veins because I thought, what else could we do? What could we do that would be something fun? I had nothing.
Nothing.
I had nothing that would even come close.
The thing that I've been doing since that was trying to figure out what else I would be a top 10 pick in. And then just basically like suggesting it to my wife, only to have my wife be like, nah, top 40, top 50, maybe.
Second or third round, I'd take a flyer on you.
A lot of upside, but a lot of weaknesses.
Drying
Just
dishes.
So many weaknesses.
Laying sod. I'm definitely a fourth-round pick in that. I didn't buy enough, so like just parts of the yard is covered.
Oh.
It's pretty sloppy. We're going to get back after this week. Thursday is going to be a big day.
Look, I mean, you got the upside. You did it, right? So doing it is part of half the battle. So at least, you didn't buy enough sod. But who knew how much sod you should buy, right? It's not like that's anything you could research before you go, right?
Exactly. And now the whole I know the process. I know where the sod is at Home Depot. I know how to pay for the sod, which are two very different locations. It's a whole thing. You back your vehicle up to it. You got to load it up. Then you got to go inside and pay. It's
the amount of projects that I've gone through, which required not one, not two, not three, but at a minimum 4 Home Depot trips. And on the third trip, you're like, okay, this is going to be the last one. I'm not going back to Home Depot. Think, what else could you possibly need? And then you buy like 14 other things, and then you get home and realize I can't use any of these 14 other things I just bought, and I did forget one more thing.
You ever heard of a list?
No,
No
you
list.
make the list.
You make the list.
You
but
check
the
it
list
twice.
Is missing things.
The list is making things. As you get further on in the project, you realize that this list is completely inadequate and inaccurate.
That sounds like a major miscalculation. Way too big of a project.
This coming from the guy that didn't buy enough sod.
Yeah, exactly. That's a simple project that I'll make 2 trips for. I would never take on a project in my brain where I know I could possibly go to Home Depot 3 or 4 times.
Want to place a bet? The second trip to Home Depot will not be your final?
Ooh.
Do you have a rake?
Do I have a
But one of those like spiky ones?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking
Okay.
about, and I do.
Okay, good.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rake City
Rake?
over here. We've got
City.
rakes for days.
Oh, you'll figure out things you don't have that you need.
All right. Houston and Utah, the teams that we highlight today. Ton of prospects actually for both these teams, highlighted by Spencer Fano. Fano. Why do I, in my brain, every time I'm about to say his name, I second guess how to say it.
Can I tell you a dirty little secret?
Yeah.
We've been saying it wrong all year.
Okay.
Fano.
It is Fano.
Yeah.
Okay. Spencer Fano.
And by we, I mean you.
Definitely
kidding.
me.
Just kidding. We've both been saying it wrong all year.
Spencer Fano.
And we've double dipped. We've been talking about Logan and Spencer Fano all year. Little did we know it was actually Spencer and Logan Fano.
So that's the credibility we have on this program. The Outland Trophy winners, whose last name we cannot pronounce, and it's 4 letters. Spencer Fano, 4-star recruit out of high school, going to be a top 10 pick, right? Like, he's got 4 uncles that have played in the NFL. His sister played college. Like, he is a football, athletic family across the board. Loves the sport. First-team All-American, Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year, Polynesian College Football Player of the Year, Pro Football Focus grade, off the charts. He's a plug-and-play starting tackle for the next decade.
So the biggest weakness you could find in his game would be the arm length. At 32 and 1/8 inch arms, below average for an offensive tackle. and significantly below ideal for the position. That's about it in terms of weaknesses. But those short arms didn't really bother him in protecting Utah for 3 seasons. A PFF grade in 2025 of 88 with no sacks allowed and only 5 pressures allowed all season. So, yeah, I mean, for a team that set school records in rushing this past year, 35 career starts over 3 seasons, you got to really search to find weaknesses in this dude's game. He's absolutely a top 10 pick.
Like the arm length stuff has to be so overhyped. These are football players. They're not MMA fighters. They're not basketball players. Like the difference in a few inches is in arm length. Is that what separates a guy that sits the bench and a guy that's a Pro Bowler? I don't know. It just seems crazy to me.
Well, it's. I was trying to look into the numbers for Will Campbell last year because this came up with Will Campbell a lot last year in terms of his short arms. You know, and he measured 32 5/8, so a little bit longer than Spencer Fano. You know, I think a lot of NFL teams say anything short of 33 is just not going to work at the tackle position.
And he's at what?
32 1/8.
Man.
No, sorry. His arm length, sorry, 33 5/8.
Okay, so
he's over.
He cleared the benchmark.
He cleared the benchmark.
Got it.
I had him and Will Campbell confused because I was looking at Will Campbell's number. Will Campbell was 32 5/8. He's at 33 5/8. So he hits the 33 mark, and I think puts him in a significantly better spot than Will Campbell. But you could argue that the 33 mark is pretty important because Campbell did struggle at times last year, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah. His brother, Logan Fano, edge rusher, plays on the defensive line. Utah kid, 4-star recruit out of high school. Older player. He's had some injury stuff over the course of his career. He's also an Eagle Scout, FYI. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. Hurry and heart is the scouting report on him. Bleacher Report's big board has him at like 253 overall, so a late day 3 pick, but a guy that's battling really his injury history, like 2 ACL tears. But I still think he's probably a guy that gets drafted.
Yeah, I think he had 3 ACL tears. He had the ACL tears at his time at BYU, and then in high school. He redshirted his freshman year. 3 ACL injuries the past 7 years. Missed sophomore year of high school after tearing ACL in his right knee. Tore his right ACL again during spring practice at BYU in March of 22. And then ACL in left knee in September of 23. Had season-ending surgery October of 23. And then was limited at the NFL Combine by a hamstring injury. And then at his pro day when he ran, he kind of stopped short and held up a little bit for the hamstring. So I think he's a guy that was probably slated as a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick that will probably be hurt by the ACL and the hamstring stuff. But he's versatile. I mean, you can line him up, hand in the dirt, he can stand. So I think he's got positional flexibility. There's a couple of guys at the defensive end position, including Logan Fano, we're going to be talking about, that have that same, positional flexibility with the ability to rush with your hand in the dirt and rush standing up. I think sometimes that can be overrated, but in this case, certainly from a draft status standpoint, it stands out in a positive way.
By the way, Spencer Fano, he's listed as a tackle, but he could easily slide in to guard where the arm length isn't as big of a deal and be a really good offensive lineman.
I think some teams have him as a center. The problem with that is you're not taking a guy at top 10 at center,
right,
or interior for the most part. So you kind of have to project him as a tackle in order to take him top 10.
That's a really good point.
And this, again, speaks to, there are guys we probably think are definite top 10 picks that might not be. And then there's rumors now that, Jordan Tyson could find himself in the top 10. I still find that hard to believe based on the injuries, but if we're looking at, pure pass catchers, he might be the best in this thing.
The hottest name right now, nationally, that I see is Jeremiah Love. There's rumors that he could go as high as number 3 to the Cardinals. Cardinals might be trading back to somebody that really wants him to be a top 3 pick, running back. That makes me nervous, like Trent Richardson is. I just can't get him out of my brain and how much of a bust he was, even though he still, in my eyes, is the 2nd best collegiate running back I've ever seen after Ashton Genty. Lander Barton is the other Utah guy that maybe gets drafted, linebacker. He is the younger brother of two guys that play in the NFL, Cody and Jackson. His dad played football and baseball at Utah. His mother is in the Utah Athletics Hall of Fame for basketball, had a sister that was a 4-time volleyball All-American at Utah, like Lander Barton is Mr. Utah. He had a season-ending injury his sophomore year, but then 2 really nice seasons, 72 tackles in 2024 that led the team. This past year he had 55 stops. He also took a couple of snaps at tight end for Utah, so he's got athletic ability. Ran a 4.55 40 at 6'5", 233.
Yeah, he was a freshman All-American in 2022 and probably never after that lived up to the hype, but he was solid. I mean, a solid player on a really good defense, 200 career tackles. But I will say, and Dane Brugler of The Athletic is reporting on this basically, that several teams are entertaining him as a potential tight end convert in the NFL. He caught 6 passes for 44 yards and a touchdown. And look, I think, he's projected to be drafted. If you project him as a tight end, you're probably not going to be drafting him. This is more of a UDFA, take a flyer, see if he can develop as a tight end. I think depending on if he's drafted, that will show you the ability that people think he has at the linebacker position. But you're right to point out that he comes from an extremely athletic family. He's got, siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles that have played at a very high level of athletics, which says a lot about the pedigree and, the stuff you can't teach, which is really important. But very interested to see where he's projected and, if he gets drafted, if teams view him as an NFL linebacker.
I think one of the most intriguing prospects in the entire draft for Big 12 schools is Utah tight end Dallin Bentley, the walk-on from nowhere. So he only played 5 snaps in high school. He snapped his tibia and fibula on the same play, a 40-yard reception in their season opener his senior year. So he had never even played tight end before. He goes to a junior college.
And that's his only reception in high school.
1 catch. Goes to Snow Junior College, adds a bunch of weight, bulks up to 250 pounds. That leads to second-team All-JUCO honors nationally, like a JUCO All-American. He goes to Utah. His first 2 years at Utah, just 3 catches total. Battling injuries, he's blocking, just kind of waiting for his turn. And then he blows up this year. Over 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. That was 7th nationally among all tight ends in receiving yards. Had really nice combine numbers. He's probably a guy that gets drafted off his potential.
Yeah, 4.6 240, which moved him up draft boards. For him to move that fast at that size is it's a big deal. The biggest knock I saw on him, aside from the lack of production and is that sustainable, is he settled into zones a lot, which you want your tight end to do, but in traffic, he had a lot of he was not very good in traffic. So when there's lots of players around him, he was not as effective. He had 4 contested catches on 17 targets, so that shows you again his what he was doing or lack thereof in traffic. And you can see on Big 12 Studios as we're playing some of these highlights, a lot of these catches are coming wide open, not in traffic, settling into the zone. The Lance Zierlein, who is really good at this for NFL.com, he said, quote, "A heavy portion of his catches came against zone, so he'll need to refine his route running and contested catch technique to prove he can win on his own. Bentley's NFL future could depend on his ability to play with more tenacity and technique as a run blocker, since his catch production from 2025 might not translate." And I think that's what a lot of teams are going to be looking at. Is he a good enough blocker to continually see the field as an inline tight end, and can we develop that consistent pass catching, because he just didn't show it. Now, I would argue the pass catching was due to, injuries. Obviously, that plays into his draft status too, but a very intriguing prospect to your point.
Totally agree. With Houston, so last year was the year that snapped their 9 straight seasons with a guy getting drafted. They didn't have anybody get picked last year, but this year they will start a new streak with tight end Tanner Koziol, who we touched on during our tight end series. 3 different high schools, before he settles in Bloomington, Illinois. He's a 2-star recruit out of high school. He goes to Ball State, leads the nation in receiving yards for tight ends. He was a first-team Group of 5 All-American. Transfers to Houston, led all FBS tight ends in catches. He was 2nd in yards. He was 3rd in touchdowns. 6'6", 247.
And then Latrell McCutcheon, who is a former Lincoln Riley guy, went as a 4-star to Oklahoma and then went with Lincoln along with Caleb Williams, to USC in the same recruiting class, and then eventually transferred to Houston. He was at USC, had a kid, and it was too difficult for him to be that far away from his son. He's from Austin, so he wanted to move back to be closer to home, and that's why he ended up at Houston. Plus, he wanted to play with his brother, who is at Houston as well. 6'1", 6'2", 191 pounds, so really good size for a cornerback. Size, speed, recognition, those things are all there. The biggest issue with him is he has no interceptions in 48 career games.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, the ball skills are a major question mark about Latrell McCutcheon. But, like, again, the size, the speed, the length, like, that's all there. It's just whether or not you can project that he could be, more opportunistic as with his ball skills in the NFL. And also, in 2014, when he was with the Del Valley Ducks, he was featured on Friday Night Tykes, the reality program, which showcased Texas youth football. He was singled out as the state's best youth player at that point in time. The Ducks represented Texas and faced Snoop Dogg's all-star team from California. So Latrell McCutcheon was a big feature of the Friday Night Tykes show in 2014 with the Del Valley Ducks.
Yeah, you had me at Friday Night Tykes. That's amazing. I think Carlos Allen will get drafted. He's not projected to be any higher than a 6th or 7th round pick, but he led the nation in tackles for defensive, interior defensive linemen. I don't see how NFL teams just bypass that. 122 tackles in 2 years at Houston. Great kid, too. Like, if anybody talks to Carlos Allen, they'll be blown away. We had him at Media Days. Just love his passion for the game and his backstory. Went to Kennesaw State, 0-star recruit out of high school, transferred to Houston for his final 2 years. All right, that is our Houston and Utah look from Saturdays to Sundays, Big 12 and the NFL Draft, brought to you by Modelo. Coming up next, we look at edge rushers, defensive ends in the Big 12 that will hear their name called starting on Thursday. This series is powered by Modelo. He's Ari, I'm James, and this is Big 12 Radio.
Intercepted by Rodriguez.
And then he hurdles here as that one is taken away. It's Jacob Rodriguez. Here's Martin on 2nd and 3, but he is met and tackled for a loss. Jacob Rodriguez making his first big moment. Wigman to the air, and the pass is picked off by Rodriguez. And then he hurdles a Cougar and is still going. And finally brought down inside the 25-yard line.
Yelling at the line. Finally the snap. Avery Johnson on a screen. Ball came out again. It's out again. And Pollock has it. Chase Brown.
This is how you respond to Heisman hype. Rodriguez, touchdown.
Definitely need Sam Jackson. Handoff here as that one is taken away. Going the other way. Make it the 4th play of the game. That's a game changer. Take it to the house. It's Jacob Rodriguez.
They set him in motion. Look out for that screen action. Underneath, intercepted by Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez, the big play.
Come back to haunt them because they've been blowing teams out. Nice play in the backfield again by Rodriguez, taking down Connors for a loss.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo. We are less than 20 minutes away from chatting with Peyton Turner, who's a defensive end for the Detroit Lions. Was drafted by the New Orleans Saints back in 21 as the 28th overall pick. Spent 4 years there. He did have a brief stint with the Cowboys. You were right. My bad on that. And now he's in Detroit. He was a really good player for Houston, and just an incredible story of perseverance. Added a bunch of weight when he was at Houston, was a local kid, like a 2 or 3 star recruit back in the day, and now he's in the NFL. And we talked to him because we are talking defensive ends from Saturdays to Sundays, Big 12 in the NFL draft. It all starts with David Bailey. Now, the latest Walter Football mock draft, which I've been using these guys for years, they're usually super accurate. They have David Bailey falling to 3rd overall, which means the Jets would pass on Bailey and draft Arvell Reese, the linebacker from Ohio State, which I would be okay with. I'd love to see David Bailey in Arizona. But what's your take on the Texas Tech star?
When you said falling, I was like, oh, how far does Walter Football have them falling?
Number 3.
Number 3. Look, I think he's the best pass rusher in this draft, and the thing that stands out to me about him is, he was as good this past year against the run as he was as a pass rusher. Like, he was some of these guys, like we'll talk about Romello Height, more of a situational pass rusher. Bailey is the full package for me in terms of what you're looking for in an edge. You put on the tape, and he's just so explosive. He would just go straight line against these tackles and not miss. He's extremely sure-handed, and especially like you watch the Oregon film, for me, that probably stands out more than anything. The Oregon film and the Utah film are probably the 2 best films you can watch on him, because Utah's got Caleb Lomu and Spencer Fano, 2 guys that are going to be first-round picks, and to see that battle at the trenches was just incredible. And then, against Oregon, that's an NFL offensive line as well that he went up against. And, Baron Morton did nothing really to keep them in that game, but it was David Bailey and Rello Height and that defense, Lee Hunter, that kept Texas Tech at that game there for a good stretch of time. So I think his speed to power, his ability to find the quarterback, sack quarterback, see quarterback, find quarterback, sack quarterback is off the charts. He's really good against the run too, so not exactly just a situational pass rusher. And, he finished number 1 in FBS in sacks at 14.5, 21.3% pressure rate, which is just insane, and number 2 in tackles for loss at 19.5 with 81 total pressures, which was number 1 in college football and number 1 in the Big 12. So, top 5 pick for sure. The best edge rusher in this class. It may not even be close. No, Arvell Reese is maybe the better all-around player in terms of versatility, which is maybe a good reason why he could be picked higher, especially in a world where Nicky Menware just showed what versatility can do for a team. But, Bailey for me is a surefire thing. The one thing that I've seen with him is some scouts maybe question, like, he was just a 1-year starter. But, man, I don't know. Like, that, you turn to the tape, and that's one ridiculously good year. And, again, the ability to be both a rusher and a guy that can hold up against the run is why I'm taking him in the top 5.
Yeah, even just the impact he had when he was at Stanford. Like, he's been dominant at every level. He was dominant in high school. He went to Modern Day High School, that powerhouse program out in California, 4-star recruit. Then he goes to Stanford. He's a freshman All-American. He's a Pac-12 All-American in 32 games. Transfers to Texas Tech late in the process and goes off for 20 TFLs and 15 sacks. Ran a 4.5 flat 40 at the combine. Had a 40% win rate in true pass rushing situations this season. Who's the next guy? Like, is it?
Well, and real quickly on him. So his dad is from Jamaica. His mom's from Ghana. They prioritized education more than anything. His brother actually played football at Harvard. Of course, he went to Stanford before transferring to Texas Tech.
Super smart.
So smart kid. Next for me would be Malachi Lawrence, who blew up at the combine, the UCF pass rusher. We've spent a little bit of time talking about him, but in terms of projections, he played all over Alex Grinch's defensive line this past year. Left defensive end, right defensive end, stand up, hand on the ground. So I think the versatility stands out about what you're getting with him. 20 career sacks puts him 10th, in the top 10 all time in UCF history. 22.7% pressure rate. So that, that's a big time pressure rate. We talked about David Bailey's pressure rate being around that too. So that's a big-time number. I think he does play a little bit smaller. He's more lean. So when you go up against big offensive linemen, that he could struggle to get off blocks in that way. But, yeah, I mean, I think he's got a ton of upside, as a pass rusher and a dual threat guy, again, a guy that can chase down running backs. You're watching film of him against Avery Johnson. That's not an easy cover for him at all, and he's making tackles with Avery Johnson down the field with that speed. That just shows you the potential that he has even with that lean muscle mass. So I like Malachi Lawrence a lot as a second or third round pick, and we'll see where he goes.
6'4", 253, first team All Big 12. Yeah, CBS actually lists him on their prospects page as a linebacker. Trying to find him on the defensive ends, he's listed there as a linebacker. So he's a guy that could really play a lot of different positions in the NFL. But what he did at the Combine, and it's almost like what he did at the Combine is overshadowing what he did on the field, which maybe isn't fair because he was really good on the field too, like double-digit TFLs and sacks. But at the Combine, his performance ranked him in the top 1% of relative athletic scores, not just this season, in the last 40 years. Like, he had a historic Combine, and his projection is all over the map. I've seen as high as like number 25. I've seen as low as Walter Football has him at number 47. So he's one of those guys that could really shake up the draft based on where he gets taken.
Right, and again, I think that speaks to what we've been talking about, which is there are guys that are projected in the top 20 that are, anywhere between 20 and 50. Like, throw them in a hat, and I bet you look at 32 NFL draft boards, and the numbers are going to vary pretty substantially. What's interesting too is I think the profile of him lists him not in great against the run. I think that's more about just how lean he is, and then a concern that he'll have in terms of setting the edge. But I think you offset that with look at how athletically this guy's at another level. And, he doesn't have the bend they talk about in terms of the edge, but I think the athleticism profile to me speaks to what he can be in terms of upside as a pass rusher. I don't think there's any way this guy gets out of the second round.
Agreed. Definitely. He had a really strong showing also at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He's got all the tape. Has all the numbers. All right, how about Romello Height, edge rusher at Texas Tech, kind of a journeyman in college after being a four-star recruit out of high school, 6'3", 239. Started at Auburn in 2020, then he goes to USC in 2022, tore up his shoulder in week 2, was out for the entire year, goes to Georgia Tech in 2024, has a really strong year, lands at Texas Tech for 2025, started all 14 games this past season.
Yeah, and a guy that has been around. Right, I mean, he was on his 5th school, started at Auburn, USC, Georgia Tech, 4th school, 6 seasons. And look, I mean, this is a guy that, as Joey McGuire told us, really benefited from the work that he put in under C.J. Ayu, the former defensive ends coach for Texas Tech this past year, because he blew up and had his best season by far. He's a stand-up outside linebacker. He posted career highs, 38 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, and 62 pressures. So when you look at 62 pressures from him, second in the Big 12, 80-some from David Bailey, I mean, that's impactful. I think they also helped each other in terms of rushing on opposite ends, so it's just really difficult to account for them. I mean, both Romello Height and David Bailey completely wrecked shop against BYU in that Big 12 championship game. The problem with him is he's 6'2", 6'3", 239 pounds. Mm-hmm. He is way too light to be a edge rusher in the National Football League. But when you turn the tape on, he plays like you can't block him. We just saw some of the clips from his profile. So he's a really interesting study by NFL teams because some teams may take him off their board entirely based on the profile of edge rushers. At 240 pounds, he's just not big enough. And teams will look at that and say, look, there's no way he can disengage from blockers. But then again, you turn the tape on, and against Utah, you're talking about 2 NFL-type linemen there at the edge, and he's beating them. I mean, he's active. He's got great hands. He can slither. He finds spaces. So for me, the biggest weakness of him isn't exactly weakness. Now, the other weakness would be he's sort of a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
He's not exactly a can play against the run type set the edge rusher. He's a situational pass rusher. But if you get a guy that can be a double-digit sack guy as a situational pass rusher, there's nothing wrong with that, especially I think where he projects as a second or third round pick.
He's not going to be on the field every snap, but you bring him in for blitz packages and He had 62 pressures, which was 7th most in the nation, and he wasn't on the field every snap at Texas Tech. They have a very deep defensive line with all the guys that will be drafted next year with David Bailey, among others. He didn't have great combine numbers, which surprised me a bit. I thought he'd run a faster 40, a 4.64 40-yard dash was kind of on the bottom end, but he has great instincts. Green Bay, they brought him in for a top 30 visit ahead of the draft, expected to be a late day 2, day 3 rotational pass rusher who has a lot of upside. He's a really intriguing prospect to me, and like you see him in person, he is a specimen, but he is a little bit lighter. Like he looks like maybe a tight end or a heavier receiver versus what you would consider an NFL defensive end. We touched a little bit in our last segment on Logan Fano. Anybody else we're missing in terms of defensive ends that could get drafted from this league?
Yeah, there was one other now that I'm not finding. Well, Nigel Kelly is the other guy that blew up at the combine from UCF. A guy that's projected 7th rounder UDFA, and I think if you are able to sign him as an undrafted free agent or take a flyer on him in the 7th round, there's a lot of upside there without much of a risk. So he's probably the last guy I'd talk about in terms of potential draft picks out of the Big 12 that are edge rushers. So look, there's some fireworks in this draft at edge rusher, just not enough in terms of volume overall. And this is probably something that's going to be common when it comes to Big 12 teams. The most important positions are going to be top heavy. You're going to get guys that stay or come in that can rush the passer, protect the edge. Quarterbacks as well, but for the most part, most of these guys are coming from the SEC or the Big Ten. It's just the nature of the beast right now.
And Nigel Kelly was a highly touted 4-star recruit out of high school, signed with Miami, spent 2 years at UCF, and had 99 tackles and 17 TFLs, but ran a 4.68 40 at the combine, had a 9'7" broad jump, a 37-inch vertical. But you look at him at 6'5", almost 260, he looks like an NFL defensive end. So
and 35 1/8 inch arms. Okay, so
it's all about the arms.
Nigel Kelly going up against 32 1/8 inch armed Will Campbell.
What's the difference?
I mean, that's 4 inches. That's that's the old big brother putting their hand on the face, and then 82 1/2 inch wingspan. The dude is athletically on a different level. And that's where I think, easy got to take a flyer out of the 7th round. So much upside there athletically. You just got to put him in the right situations, and he's just very raw. But, there's things you can't teach that Nigel Kelly brings to the table that will not be available from – you're not going to be able to find many guys that rush the passer at 6'5", 6'6", 260 pounds with that kind of wingspan and that kind of arm reach available in the 6th or 7th round of an NFL draft.
Yeah, really good point. This – NFL draft from Saturdays to Sundays. Big 12 series is powered by Modelo fan rule number 74. You've Googled draft order tiebreakers with dread. As we get set for the NFL draft, where will edge rusher David Bailey go? Romello Height, Malachi Lawrence, among others. From the Big 12, we'll talk with a guy who was a first-round pick back in 2021, currently with the Detroit Lions. Peyton Turner played at Houston. Played from 2017 to 2020. He's with us after this timeout. That's Ari. I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Viola steps up, and he's sacked. Back in their own territory at the 47 by Golday.
Fake it to Kingston and give it instead to Hagan. And he is dropped by Golday.
At home, Golday is right here off the edge. I want you to watch Corleone in the middle. He's the one that starts the disruption. Boom. Swims through, makes everybody feel chaotic, and then Golday stays home where he's supposed to be.
Thought about running it. Now is sandwiched out of bounds. Jay Golday.
Fake it, they look. See Golday at the end. Viola steps up. At the 47 by Golday. A call by Cincinnati.
Jake Golday's had a nice job off the edge. Dante Corleone pushing the pocket from the middle.
Right there.
Bowling Green, Pine didn't see him.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. With Ari Timken, I'm James Westling, and we're super excited to be joined by Peyton Turner, defensive end, former Houston Cougar. And Peyton, tell us, how does a guy go from a two-star recruit to a first-round NFL draft pick? You're going into year 5 in the league.
Yeah, so, I think the biggest thing was just, development. Like, a lot of guys, I think that's kind of one of those things, people talk about it that gets lost now, but, with the transfer portal and stuff, but really just sticking to it and developing. I was a 3-sport athlete. I was really good. Football was my worst sport. So, I just kind of took that and went with it and just got better and just developed while I was at Houston 4 years. And then, I ended up with New Orleans first round.
Yeah, what was your 2021 NFL draft experience like? When did you know you were going to be a first-round pick, and when did you find out it was going to be New Orleans?
Yeah, so after the Senior Bowl, I kind of was probing. My agents were probing a little bit, and we kind of knew I was going to be a top 50 pick. And then after my pro day, I had some of the coaches just come up to me and tell me, because our draft class was weird with COVID, right?
Yeah,
so we didn't really have the combine. We had kind of a combine. It was kind of medical though. It wasn't any drills or anything like that on any field work. So for me, after pro day, I was kind of some of the coaches came up to me. One GM came up to me and just said, I'm worth a top 40 pick. And so I was kind of teetering on the edge of that those first 32 picks. And then the night before the draft, I actually talked to New York for an hour on Zoom. The Giants on Zoom for an hour, and I thought I was gonna go at 20. So I kind of figured late April, probably about a week ago, so mid-April, that I was gonna go first round.
So how much football did you play growing up if it was your third sport, and what were the other two?
So I grew up playing soccer, of course, right? From age 3, 4, or whatever to 6, and then baseball was my best sport. But I played pitcher, first base, batted fourth, my whole career, and then it just got slow to me, and so then I started playing basketball, of course, too, when I was little, 6 or 7. My mom played pro basketball, so and she played in college too in Montana. And my dad played a little bit of football at junior college in Texas, and then didn't really play too much after that. But I kind of started playing football middle school-ish, kind of, but I was the quarterback. So it was just a little different, right? So I wore number 11. I was too big to play running back in middle school, so then they let me play quarterback finally in high school, and then I moved over to defensive line my end of my sophomore year. So junior year, senior year, I played DM.
What advice would you give to guys as they're getting ready for Thursday night?
Man, just take it all in. For me, I didn't go to the draft. I had all my family with me, everybody that was important with me. And man, it was a night to remember, even though I don't remember too much of it. It was a good party. We had some friends over, family, friends. Just enjoy it. It only happens one time. So just every time that you get an opportunity, every pick, is gonna come with a little bit of anxiety, waiting on a professional athlete your whole life. Just soak in every moment, every pick, every moment with your family. Just appreciate every moment of it, because it only happens once.
So, talking with Peyton Turner here on Big 12 today, now with the Detroit Lions. So you arrive on campus at Houston at 217 pounds. You've been playing, you started playing the quarterback position. It was your third sport. So you were still relatively raw when you got drafted, just in terms of longevity at that position. So did you find that NFL scouts and GMs and everybody you're talking to, that was almost a benefit or a good thing that you were so good even though you were somewhat inexperienced?
Yeah, that was definitely a factor. I think there's only one team, I think, if I can remember correctly, that was just that was kind of looking at it like it was a negative. But I think just with the confidence that they have and the guys that they bring in to coach and develop players at this level, they only expect you to get better, right? So I think it was a big benefit for me having played those other sports, because it helped me with just different stuff that you wouldn't think, hand-eye coordination, timing, rhythm, all these different things, body movement, coordination, dribbling, So they were all really excited, honestly. Everybody I talked to was just excited to get their hands on me and help me develop. So, it was a blessing for sure.
What are the things you've had to work on in your NFL career?
For me, it's just like taking care of my body, like my health. Is That's one thing I think you don't really realize or get emphasized enough in college sports is just like taking care of your body. So, uh, that's probably the biggest change for me. But um, I wouldn't say that it was like a shock or anything. But I would just say like it was just something new for me, like the nutrition, the body maintenance and stuff. So just everything with that.
You know, being a local kid growing up in Houston, you stayed home. Now that Houston's in the Big 12, and I know, Willie Fritz was post your time, but how close are you to following the program, and, what do you see from the outside?
Yeah, I just went to one of their spring practices actually. I missed the spring game OTAs and stuff this weekend, but I mean they got it's funny because like when I was there, so our D line we had three guys drafted top 33 picks and really top 32 picks because Logan Hall the year after me, they only had 31 picks in the first round because I think one of the teams had their first round pick suspended. I forget who it was. Might have been Miami maybe. And so we had three guys on the line in Ed Oliver, me, and then Logan Hall that all went in the top first round essentially. And so it's funny looking at it now because me and Logan were both. I think Logan might have been a 2-star too, and now they're getting all these 4 stars, 5 stars, and they're having coaches come and stay and turn down other job offers, right? To stay at Houston. And now that we're in the Big 12, like that's always kind of been the knock is that, we're in a lower conference, even though we might dominate the conference or always send guys to the draft. That's always been the knock on Houston. And now that we're in the Big 12 and we get that attention, we get that scheduling, we get that, those time slots, we just get better recruits. So seeing the way Coach Fritz, I just think handles it. And, he's at practice on the mic all day, every day, and just like really talking to the guys. I'm just excited for what they got going on this year.
Well, and you mentioned that you're trying to make it out for the spring game, but you've been out for spring practice. Like, has Willie Fritz done a good job of engaging former Houston players like yourself to get re-energized or re-engage the program?
Yeah, I think so. We had a new AD. We had Chris Pesman, and now it's Nunez.
Yeah.
I'm blanking his first name, but and he's just like they were kind of making a push to get alum back and include them and stuff. And then after Holgerson left and Fritz came in, like honestly, I feel like he ramped it up. Like he reached out. His son Wes, is helping out, reaching out, just like really trying to connect with the alum and just have something for us. Like they had a Letterman event, I think this last Friday at U of H for a lot of the guys. And then, it's funny seeing some of these guys that, were old, like first round picks back in 1980 or whatever, and coming back and seeing them. So just kind of seeing like the levels and like the legends come back. And I think they're doing a great job trying to get guys back in there.
That's amazing.
Talking with Peyton Turner here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Drafted 28th overall back in 2021 by the Saints. He's now with the Lions, former Houston Cougar. And Peyton, you were talking about COVID. There was no NFL Combine that year, so you had a pro day. What is, in your opinion, the most overrated thing or event at the Combine or just about the Combine?
The most overrated. I think like there's a certain degree of they're trying to measure your athleticism, right? But at the same time, you got to turn the tape on it and see.
Yeah.
You got to turn the tape on it and see just how much like a guy can play football. So, I think when it comes to like some like why are we judging bench for some of these guys like receiver? You know what I mean? For these guys that don't ever really press.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or why is the 40-yard dash like? Why are we looking outside the first 20 yards for a DN? Or you know what I mean? So it's just like I think that short area quickness is essential in this sport, but they just try to like zoom in, and y'all gotta have stuff to talk about, right? Y'all gotta be able to compare and contrast. It can't be apples to oranges. It's gotta be apples to apples, right? So I get that, but at the same time, like, come on, like all these guys play football, so let's go see them play football.
Yeah. What have you learned, aside from the nutrition piece, which I think is really impactful, obviously, is taking care of your body, things you don't have to do maybe at the college level as much as you need to in the NFL. What else have you learned about, like, staying power in the NFL?
Yeah. Well, I think, and the other part in college is, like, it's so developmental. Like, I came in, like you said, at 220, and I left at 270. So and my heaviest was 290. So there's a period in there where you have to put on the weight, right? But you have to do it you have to do it the right way. You have to get in the weight room. You have to eat. Like, you have to do all these things. But I think the staying power in the NFL is just that, like, being able to be on the field and be available, because everybody in this league can play football. It's a matter of how long and like how available you are. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned. So just being able to take care of yourself and play and be able to perform, like, that's going to get you more opportunities.
Peyton, what's it like being coached by Dan Campbell?
Man, I met him. So I actually met him when I signed, and everything that you think, like everything you see or you think, hey, how you doing, is exactly like who he is, like genuine, intense, and that's just off me one time, I'm in meeting him. So I'm excited to get to play for him and just learn more about the system. And I love the way he goes after everybody. I think he holds everybody accountable. And just from talking to him, I think that's what's going to be. So I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate your time. You've got a full day. We know Peyton
Yeah.
Turner, former Houston defensive end, now with the Lions here on Big 12 today. Thanks, Peyton.
Yes, sir. Go Cougs.
That is Peyton Turner, former Houston Cougars defensive end, now with the Detroit Lions. He was drafted back in 2021, 28th overall by the New Orleans Saints. Joining us here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, part of our From Saturdays to Sundays series, which will continue coming up next here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios.
Here comes the TCU pressure. Deal. Picked off. That will do it. Nandy Obi-Izor seals the rivalry win for the Horned Frogs.
And first and goal, 8 seconds to go. That's knocked up. That's picked off. Obi-Izor takes it away for TCU. And they stand at the goal line as the half expires.
Earl under pressure. Sack wrapped up and brought down. Andy Obi-Izor, the sack for TCU.
That was Bain, right? That was Bain. Tonight's theme. Whoa, big hit. Obi-Izor in the backfield. Lift him up, form tackle, throw him down. My God. That is a tackle if I've ever seen one. Boom. Good Lord.
Side of Lopez.
This defense, you keep contained, not fooled at all. Finish at the end of the year where no one feels like you have to play for.
What do you have inside on you? Pryor on the run, can't get outside. Obi-Izor spun him down.
If he can correct on a 3rd and 11. He steps up, in some trouble, and he's swung down. Obi-Izor with the sack.
Back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Peyton Turner was our guest last hour, defensive end for the Detroit Lions, to put a bow on defensive ends today from Saturdays to Sundays, Big 12 and the NFL Draft. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, and thought it was really cool that Turner was just a really entertaining interview, but also he's just walking around the Detroit Lions practice facility, chatting with us, going about his day as he gets ready for the upcoming season.
Yeah, and look, I mean, this is the first week of OTAs, so you're going to see, a lot of players across the NFL in their facilities. It's not mandatory OTAs, so you find out who's ready to get back to work and get in shape. I mean, it's interesting when you think about the growth of the NFL and just how ridiculously popular it is and how top of mind it is. But, back in the day, players would report to training camp, and, that was when they got into shape. Now it's a 12-month of the year situation, and it's not like that, just like that for the NFL. I mean, you've got to get to training camp and be in shape. So it's just crazy to see how much it's changed. I mean, basically now, if you've spent the off season not staying in shape and eating improperly and drinking and doing a lot of things you shouldn't do in season to help you stay in shape, now's the time to start it, so that by August you're back in the same playing shape you were last season.
Yeah, you can't spend all off season eating Whataburger every meal to play in the NFL, because if you do that, there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 guys that have been eating clean and they're ready to go.
Well, you can when you're 21 or 22. Once you get to 28, 29, 30, yeah, you just can't eat that stuff like you used to, at least with the regularity that you used to.
Definitely.
When I was in college, I would go work out and then go to Burger King.
Sound like that makes me want to take a nap right now. It sounds terrible.
Yeah, I mean, probably one of the better decisions I made in college, which doesn't speak to my decision-making prowess in college.
Man, I was obsessed with Mr. Good Sense.
Yeah.
Just a classic foot-long sub. In fact, I don't even think they made footlongs. I think it went from 8 to 16. Just got to go 16.
Gotta go 16.
Meant for 2 meals, but I'd eat it in 1. I gained a lot of weight in college.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's Chunky James out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a pic.
Yeah, please do.
So now we're talking basketball.
Send it to Anthony Smith, too.
Yeah, definitely, for the world to see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Chunky James got to make an appearance.
He will. He will. Modelo fan rule number 71, because we're talking basketball now. You believe culture matters until talent saves the day. TCU is the team that we highlight today, part of our Big 12 men's basketball full court review series, powered by our friends at Modelo. TCU had a really nice year, 23-12. They finished top 6 in the Big 12. They went 11-7 in league. That was their first above 500 winning conference record since the 2001 season, when they were in the WAC and coached by Billy Tubbs. 9 seed in the tournament, beat Ohio State, which is a win in itself because they were one of the hottest teams. Everybody's talking about them as being a sleeper. TCU takes them out, led by 17 at halftime. And then they got beat soundly by Duke on a Bush League technical foul call early in the second half against Jamie Dixon that totally flipped that game. But under Jamie Dixon, they've been in the NCAA tournament 4 of the last 5 years.
One of the most impressive under-the-radar coaching jobs for anybody in the country, especially the Big 12. When you look at TCU in 2024, 2025, they were 244th in assist-to-turnover ratio, 317th in scoring offense, and 336th in effective field goal percentage. So, I mean, they went from one of the worst, most inefficient offenses in the country to overhauling a roster with experienced players that turned it into one of the best, most efficient offenses in the country in just 1 year. 5 Division I transfers who averaged at least 8 points per game, and then the National JUCO Player of the Year. And again, TCU went from a offensive train wreck to, just a more credible, efficient offense. It starts with David Punch, who started all 34 games, averaged 14 points and 7 rebounds, only the team in points, rebounds, steals, blocks, and field goal percentage. Now he's out the door, and this is a big part of what we'll talk about heading into 2027. They lost a ton of players. Now they do bring back a few players, which is more than a lot of teams in the Big 12 can say, but David Punch is a huge loss, especially It's what a punch in the gut for him to go to Texas. Texas is on a spending spree right now in the portal.
Yeah.
Like they have loaded up in the portal with big-time players, and David Punch is one that I thought maybe a Big 12 team would prioritize. Punch. He's very under the radar in terms of just how effective he is, but he was very, very good this past year. And, yeah, you mentioned the Duke loss. Duke shot 61% from the floor in the second half of that game. They were tied at 44 with 14 left, and then that technical foul, as you mentioned, helped Duke go on a 26-6 surge, and that was pretty much all she wrote.
David Punch, who, as you noted, is at Texas now. He only became the 7th player in Big 12 history to average all the numbers across the board that you were talking about. He did a lot of different things. No TCU player had hit those benchmarks in the same year since Kurt Thomas back in 1994-95, who went on to play many years in the NBA. But towards the tail end of the season, like the last probably month and a half, maybe even 2 months, I didn't think he was the best player on the roster. I thought that was Xavier Edmonds, who is averaging like 20 and 10 over his last 12 games.
And he is back.
Yep. He was the number 1 rated JUCO player in the country year before last. Really took him some time. Like, he was bothered by foul trouble, just out of position defensively. And then he became just a one-man wrecking crew on the inside and became TCU's number 1 option offensively. He shot a ton of free throws. So I think having him back in his second year is going to be massive for TCU, to where I think they can be better than they were this past season. Michael Robinson is the other bright spot from last year that's back this year. He wasn't starting the first 12, 15 games of the year. Then they put him in the starting lineup and won 60 or 70% of the games. I think they won like the first 6 that he started. It was a ridiculous number. Averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds per game. But again, his numbers, major uptick the back half of the season. This is a team that lost to New Orleans on opening night of college basketball and end up a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. To your point earlier, Jamie Dixon, probably the most underrated coaching job, maybe in America, definitely in the Big 12 in terms of what he did to make that team better. Brock Harding, the point guard, he's also coming back. So they've got some major retention pieces that a lot of other Big 12 schools don't have.
Yeah, Brock Harding, Micah Robinson, Xavier Edmonds, and Tanner Toolson are all back, despite losing 7 players, including David Punch, their leading scorer. Plus, they add a couple of JUCOs, which Dixon had some success by adding Edmonds, and they've gone back to the well there. Trent Lincoln comes in from Gulf Coast Community College, 6'3" guard, averaged 19 points, 6 assists, and 4.5 rebounds per game. I think this is a major market inefficiency that Jamie Dixon is exploiting. With all this money that's being spent in the portal, TCU's not going to play that money game, especially with all of their money going to be tied up into football. So they've got to become creative in basketball, and the JUCO ranks are certainly an area to become creative. That used to be an area that was huge in recruiting that's now really dissipated a ton because of the transfer portal. So good on Dixon for getting back into the well on the JUCO side of things. It's not a flawless process, but either is the transfer portal and paying a bunch of money. Ryan Hunt is the other one. But by the way, the Trent Lincoln, when you think about Brock Harding, not exactly a playmaker. So the backcourt with Harding and Lincoln could be really, really good in terms of those two guys and the skill sets that they possess. Ryan Hunt is from Eastern Arizona Community College. He's a 7-foot Aussie, averaged 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 assists per game, shot 58% from the floor, and actually 47% from three-point range. So a 7-footer that can step out and shoot, huge. And then not only that, but they also did not have any size last year. I mean, Punch and Edmonds were their biggest players, and so they have a legit 7-footer now. And then they also had a Serbian, Milos Sokic, 6'10", averaged 18 points and 12 rebounds for KK Beko Belgrade in the Serbian second league. Posted a 49-point game on 16 of 18 shooting. So a really good international prospect there with a lot of upside and some good size they've added too. With Edmonds, now you add Sokic and Hunt, a 7-footer and a 6'10" guy.
I'm a huge fan of this team that they've put together. Toolson was a reserve last year, but had big games late in the season. He was a transfer from, I think, Grand Canyon or Utah Valley, one of those two. And then the JUCO pipeline, major market inefficiency, as you noted. And Jamie Dixon knows that market very well. He played JUCO ball before he went to TCU. He coached in JUCO ball. A lot of his Pitt teams were JUCO-based as kind of the foundation. And now nobody's recruiting that market. And they've got the number one junior college player for the second year in a row. Lincoln, the guard from Baltimore, is the number one rated JUCO prospect in the country. And then the 7-footer, Hunt, is the 13th rated JUCO player in the country. He's 7 feet tall, which is huge because last year David Punch is 6'7" on a good day. TCU was the shortest power conference team in America. Nobody was smaller, and they were still efficient on the glass. Top 3 in the league in steals and fewest, like they were just scrappy defensively. So now you get that rim protector who probably doesn't start, but comes off the bench, and you've got 5 fouls to give. You can toss it over the top to him. He can run the floor pretty well. I love this approach from Jamie Dixon. With JUCO players, though, it takes time. Much like transfers, though, right? Like it used to be,
right.
Guys wouldn't recruit JUCO because it took them too long to develop. Well, now that playing field's been leveled.
Yeah, the development curve is the same for everybody, so it's not like you're at a disadvantage in that way. The biggest thing that stands out about this is, it doesn't matter what your strategy is, but have a strategy. Yeah. And it feels like too many programs are just sort of lost in this wilderness of trying to outbid other teams for certain players. You get into bidding wars, and then you're adding the wrong players for the wrong reasons. It just feels like Dixon has really settled into the right strategy here. And look, I mean, this last season kind of feels in some ways like the floor. Now, granted, you mentioned the stat where they were over 500 in league play for the first time in 26 years. So there, in some elements, it's not the floor, it's the ceiling. They just took too many bad losses. The New Orleans loss, which would have had them higher. They need to get out of this 8-9 spot that they've been in. It seems like a ton, but they've made the tournament. I think 3 out of the last 4 years. They made it to the
4 out of the last 5.
4 out of the last 5.
But in 3 of those tournaments, they were 9 seeds.
And they've at least gotten out of the first round in those tournaments. So good on them for getting wins. But yeah, I mean, get to the 7 line, get to the 6 line, get to the 5 line, get a better chance to get to that Sweet 16 second weekend, because that's been the difficulty for Jamie Dixon since he's been at TCU. He's redefined, what average is, or what. He's redefined, I think, what success is at TCU in some ways for basketball. When they came into the Big 12, they had the former Stanford head coach who, I mean, they were
Trent Johnson.
Thank you. They were lucky to get a win. And, now they play in a new arena. It's a gorgeous arena. They obviously invest a ton in women's basketball because of the success they've had there. And let's see them take the next step. The floor right now is 8-9 seed. Mid Big 12, 8-9 seed. Let's see if they can raise that a little bit.
Yeah, Xavier Edmonds, he averaged more this past season for TCU than he did in JUCO. Like, Jamie Dixon's player development in season is very undervalued. This guard from Baltimore, who's 6'3", to your point, like he's a combo guard. He can handle the ball. He'll pair very nicely with Brock Harding. Trent Lincoln is his name, number 1 JUCO player in the country. Averaged 20 points, 6 assists at Gulf Coast State. So he's a JUCO All-American. Chose TCU over Kansas, Kansas State, and Oregon. He had a visit to Kansas that he canceled before he ultimately visited Fort Worth and chose TCU. And it was the JUCO pitch that Coach Dixon made. He was quoted as saying he chose TCU because Coach Dixon, he was a JUCO player, a JUCO coach, and TCU was just a perfect fit. Like, that is very much the identity of TCU basketball now, and it's working.
Yeah, no.
When you look at Xavier Edmonds.
Yeah, right. And again, just have a strategy, because far too often you're looking at teams that clearly don't have a strategy, and it doesn't matter what the strategy is. It just got to fit your program. It's got to fit you as a coach, and it feels like this strategy is fitting perfectly with Dixon. Like you mentioned, 4 of the last 5 years they've made the tournament. The one year they didn't, last year, they were so bad offensively. I feel like Dixon sort of got caught in that web of trying to play the transfer portal game but not really having a strategy or understanding what types of players to go at. He reset the deck this past year and struck gold.
Yeah, remember Frankie Collins was their big little pickup the year that they missed the tournament 2 years ago. He got hurt 10 games into the season. They weren't the same. I just like the way he's addressing their lack of height, number 1, with the 7-footer. And then the Serbian kid that you mentioned, 6'10", not the first international player they've recruited. Lelevicius, who's transferring out. He was an international player. And Sokic had a 49-point game in the Serbian league. Now, he's in the second league. He's not in, like, the top-tier league. But he averaged 19 points a game in the second league, still playing against grown men, 25 to 30 years old. So that translation to the Big 12 is a little bit of an unknown because of the being the second league. But I still just love the fact that this kid's 6'10".
Yeah, right. No, I mean, and can shoot threes. And look, I mean, in Serbia, like Serbia is becoming one of the best countries outside of America to produce basketball talent. And, you know, so even the second league, I think, is probably better than a lot of other countries' second leagues.
Right. Really good point. All right, the play-by-play voice of TCU is Brian Estridge. He will join us after this break to break down TCU's season, the recruiting class, and everything Jamie Dixon led over in Fort Worth. That's next on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, and you're watching us on Big 12 Studios, powered by Modelo.
Here we go. And again, it's knocked out of bounds. And this time it's going to be...
You had about 3 seconds. That's about 2 or 3 dribbles that you could have used to be able to get a little bit closer. So not a great possession right there.
Robinson lowers the left shoulder into the big man and finishes. How about that tough take? TCU with the ball first. As Robinson left open, short, and the follow slam by David Punch. Punch, he'll try to take Coleman. How about the Euro from the big man? I didn't... Larry up top, and the throwdown by Isaiah Coleman. As Curry brings it up the floor. This is where Oklahoma State is dangerous in transition, but Curry can't finish, and Pierre comes the other way. Challenges the shot blockers, rising up. Jaden Pierre, let him know. No timeouts, 3 seconds, pull up three for the win.
What?
And it's laid in. Fowler ties it at the buzzer. Everyone stopped playing except for Parsa Fowler, and we're going to overtime.
He trusts his offense a lot more than they trust his defense.
Robinson thought about it, puts it on the deck, gets all the way to the rim. And Oklahoma State needs a three. Roy gives it up. Curry open at the horn. And TCU holds on for a 95-92 win in overtime.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, our full court review, Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps. TCU, a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament, took down Ohio State before falling to Duke, went above 500 in league play for the first time as members of the Big 12, winning 11 games, first time in any conference since 2001. And we welcome in the play-by-play voice of TCU, Brian Estridge, to chat about men's basketball, which I know is always top of mind in Fort Worth. Hey, Brian.
That's big time. You guys get Jamie Dixon to do your liners? I mean, wow.
Man, of course we do, number one. But also just the season that TCU had, did it feel like Jamie Dixon and his coaching performance, if you will, we feel like it was very underrated, the season TCU ended up putting together?
It seems like we say that after every year, don't we? I mean, just about. I mean, you look at the roster that he was given as far as well, let's just be honest with you. Look at the payroll. Look at the payroll and compare it around the league. And when you're, 14th in payroll and you finish, 6th in the league, I guess it was 5th or 6th, I can't remember. That tells you a little something about the year that you had. And so, yeah, I think they overachieved. But, that's kind of a mark of Jamie's teams over the years since he's been here for the last decade. They get better as the season goes on. He's still a developmental coach. In a time where you don't hear that word. That's kind of a word that people don't like in their program. But that's what TCU is. That's what it's going to continue to be. And I think it paid off for him this year.
Well, and I mean, the way that he's built, I think going back to this past year as sort of learning from 2 years ago.
Yep.
It feels like it doesn't matter what your strategy is, Brian, just as long as you have a strategy, and Jamie Dixon has a strategy now.
Yeah, but it matters. I mean, it matters. I think it matters to fans in some respect. I think it matters to administration. As to what type of strategy you go with, and I think it matters long term too. And I think he has a plan and a strategy that fits into TCU's culture. I think it fits into their expectation level. And then, candidly, I think it's kind of built for the slow roll. It's built for long term. It's not a quick fix every year. It's not 11 new guys. It's let's get guys that want to be here, that want to be part of a system, that want to be part of a team, and let's enjoy them for a couple of years. I mean, that's a lost art in college basketball. They're one and done, right? We don't get a chance to know the name on the back of the jersey, and hopefully that continues here at TCU.
So, Brian, towards the end of the year, Like, I know David Punch gets all the headlines, but I thought Xavier Edmonds was the best player on the team, like the last month of the season. 5-game winning streak to end the regular season. He had 26 points and 10 rebounds, and that come from behind win over Kansas State, and that was just one of many ridiculous stat lines the last month of the season.
Yeah,
So,
I think you're dead on as far as the level of play that he brought to the table at the end of the year last year. I think you couple that with a couple of guys who were also excelling at that time. Micah Robinson, if you remember, had moved into the starting lineup, and that's when things really started to change for TCU. And then the energy level that Tanner Toolson brought off the bench. I mean, those three were, I think, the key down the stretch for TCU for making this a successful season. I think that became, obviously, the priority in the offseason. And you see that all three of those are returning to Fort Worth. And so I think if you could keep that core together along with Brock Harding back at point guard, which you knew was going to happen because it was hopefully a multi-year commitment on both sides there when that original signing occurred, I think you've got your core of guys that want to be here, that are true team players, and that you saw all of them get better as well. And I think that again goes back to the mantra for Jamie Dixon over the years.
How does Jamie and TCU get off this 8-9 line?
Politics? Can you call somebody?
Oh yeah.
I fully believe that the committee sees TCU. Oh, that's an 8-9 team. Where if you watch the way that TCU played down the stretch, you knew that they were better than that. I mean, this is a team that had Michigan on the ropes, and we saw what Michigan did in the last game of the season. I just think it's some of that. It's eye test. It's whatever. The league has to keep doing better though in postseason. Let's just be honest. There's no question it's the toughest league in the country as far as the regular season is concerned. But we got to have more success in postseason, and I think that will. This league's not taking a step back. We know that,
right?
So that will happen. I mean, and the depth of this league also makes it difficult. I mean, you can't put all 16 teams on TV, on the prime game every night, and so because of that, there's some teams that kind of get lost in the shuffle. There were some really good basketball teams in this league that didn't get as much respect as they probably deserved.
yeah, it's a really good point. And, man, when the bracket came out, it's like Ohio State, okay, and then you see Duke right there as the 1 seed.
Yeah.
That was just the ultimate gut punch. We thought TCU should have been seeded better. The other kind of market inefficiency that we identified that Jamie Dixon is taking advantage of are JUCO players. Number one rated JUCO player last year in Xavier Edmonds. We just talked about him. And then back-to-back years, they're going to have the number one JUCO player in the country with this Trent Lincoln kid coming in from Baltimore.
Yeah. I mean, that tells you a little bit about, to me, to the fact that they think that they're going to get these guys for multiple years. That's the other thing that they want to do, that they want these to be not just one-year plays. And so that's why you go the junior college route, which had been backed up, as you guys know. And basketball was one of those sports where you really saw that. COVID had an effect on it. Obviously, the transfer portal had an effect on it. But the junior college player, and listen, what we've learned, and over the years, that they're generally there for a reason, but the reason may not be what you think. They're not all there because of academics. Some of them there because they know they need to grow, or they know they know that they got to get stronger, or they know they got to work on this part of their game. And I think that's where Jamie and those have identified guys that fit, with his team, both on the floor and off. And that was a priority too. And I know you guys have had him on, and he's talked about that when they recruit guys, they're just not recruiting guys for the basketball system. They're recruiting guys for the life system here at TCU and in Fort Worth and for Coach Dixon. And so I think when making that a priority, that it was that it showed out.
Yeah, I'm curious, Brian, for if any of these guys that are in the portal for TCU may end up coming back.
Yeah, well, I think Latoris signed last night, didn't he, with Clemson?
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one that I thought might. And he had kind of said that, I think, I'm going to see but he also wanted to make some money, and I get that. And so I think Clemson must have paid him, though. So I don't think so. I think that would have been the one.
And then what about the guys coming in? Obviously we know about the number one player at JUCO.
Yeah.
How about the 7-foot Aussie? Like, give us a sense here of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I asked just the other day, I said, are any of these projects? And the answer was a quick no.
Wow.
So that's a good sign. So, I think they're anticipating these guys coming in and playing right away, providing minutes right away. It's not going to be an ultra deep bench. I think that's another trend, by the way, guys, you guys need to keep track of in college basketball is, you're not going to see
Right.
13 guys getting paid big money on a roster. So you're gonna pay for your 6, 7, 8 guys, and then how you find those other guys that make you better in practice, I think is going to be really, really important. And so I think that's a big part of why this staff continues to coach the high schools or to recruit the high schools as hard as they do.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And I think it's enlightening to see that, like, Xavier Edmonds, who was the tallest player in the rotation last year, now with Hunt coming in and the Serbian kid, like, he's going to be the third tallest guy, and they're not done yet in the rotation. Like, TCU was one of the shortest teams in America last year, and now they've got these massive front court players.
One of the shortest teams and one of the better rebounding teams.
Yeah.
So that's the old Charles Barkley philosophy, right? You just got to believe every one of them's yours, and go get them. And so I think that's the mentality that Jamie Dixon preaches. And I think though you're going to see Xavier playing in a position that's more suited for him. Let's just put it that way. And I think he's excited about that, and I think that he knew that, and that was one of the reasons why he knew that TCU was the best spot for him.
What do you make of the spat this offseason between Sonny Dykes and Kurt Signetti over Josh Hoover?
Yeah, not much. There's a lot more that hasn't been said that's out there that I think would probably put it in a little bit better perspective. I think what Sonny Dykes was trying to say was, hey, I assess the program at the end of the season like all good head coaches do, and I saw where our deficiencies were, and our deficiencies were in turnovers. Okay, I don't think he was as much trying to point out that Josh was the center point of those turnovers. He wasn't the reason for all of them, but there were a lot of turnovers that came out of that spot, and a lot of turnovers out of that offense that have to get corrected. I mean, if you're going to be a winning football team, you got to take care of the football, and that's why he goes and he hires Gordy Samus. How many turnovers did UConn have last year? Do you know?
Like one, maybe?
Two. They had two. They had 2 turnovers. I mean, how do you do that?
Right.
Now, Gordy even admitted, he goes, that's a lot of luck, man, to not turn it over. But you go out and you get a guy like Gordy Samus, and then you get and then you bring in Jaden at quarterback who's a guy who doesn't turn it over. I mean, you got a chance, and so I think that was what he was trying to say was our off-season priority was, this is a team that won 9 games. Think about this, fellas. You win 9 games, and you look back over the last couple of years, and you could find 3 or 4 games. I'm off the top of my head. I'm thinking Arizona State this year, UCF, where if you just can run the football and take care of the football, you've got leads that you should be able to cover.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're talking 10 wins or 11 wins, and that's a totally different conversation. And so it's those little things that I think Sonny Dykes looks at as a head coach and makes tough decisions. Let's face it. I mean, that was a tough decision to move an offensive coordinator. That was a tough decision to allow a quarterback who'd won a bunch of games, who was going to end up being the winningest quarterback here in TCU history. He would have eaten for free in Fort Worth the rest of his life, guys. And to allow him to go. I think those are hard decisions that we will look back on, and if you're a TCU fan, you look back and you go, wow, that's Dykes making tough decisions that work out for the good.
The turnovers at UConn, and then the fact that you bring in the most efficient quarterback in the country in terms of like touchdown to interception ratio in Craig says a lot about what they're trying to do. What are your impressions of Craig so far?
Golly, man, I tell you, fellas, if there is one that looks and act the part, it's here. And I'm not just saying that because I do the games. I mean, this is a guy that has a Harvard degree. He's a great conversationalist. And I did a deal with him on Friday, and he's funny. Said he swore that when he signed with TCU, he'd never put his foot in boots, and now he's shopping for them. He's adopting the Fort Worth culture. He's also he already has his favorite Mexican food restaurant, and he's enjoying the fact that he can see the sun, which he said he didn't see, 10 to 12 months in his previous life. And so, he's really been a breath of fresh air. He's very candid. He's very open. The thing that impresses me the most, guys, and you had to be concerned about this a little bit coming from the Ivy League, and I'm one of those nerds that watch those Friday night Ivy League games. It is the speed of the game. What was that going to do to him? And it has not. The stage has seemingly not been too big for him. I will say that. And the speed of the game he has handled, and I think his decision-making shows already. So, he's a big kid. He's 6'3", 225, 230. Again, he looks the part. He commands the huddle, has a respect of his teammate, works really hard off the field, spends a lot of time with his wide receiver. I mean, I'm glowing here with praise. I mean, I know you want me to find something. I haven't been able to find it yet. I think that the move as of today looks like the right move for TCU.
Yeah, and like NFL scouts, they
love
love this kid.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, once you spend time with him, what's not to love? I mean, he was probably a little under-recruited at a New Jersey high school coming through that COVID time period as well, but I think he also had academic priorities that I think you have to honor. I'm going to go degree first, football second. Let's get it going, and he's done that, and now let's make football the priority and see where it takes you.
Awesome stuff. Brian Estridge, play-by-play voice of TCU. Brian, great to hear from you. We appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Brian Estridge, nobody better in terms of play-by-play. He is the play-by-play voice of TCU, joining us, part of our full court review, our Modelo Big 12 basketball team recap on the TCU Horned Frogs. Coming up next, we wrap up the show not with the final whistle. It is the staple with Sydney Staples, Ari's co-host on the All-State Across the Conference show, which will be airing Wednesdays at 8 Eastern right here on TuneIn and Big 12 Studios. They'll tell us all about it after this timeout. This is Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league.
Low so he could attack. His first two steps are really, really good. That second step has improved a ton.
Well, Jaden Pierre cradling it and putting it home.
They beat you to the spot.
With that second life on this trip, it's Punch with a deep touch. And bouncing away, it's way wide. Here's a third chance. Edmonds puts it home. And Petty's right with him. 25 seconds of good defense, Texas Tech. Robinson swirling in and delivers a lead for TCU.
Big time shot by Micah Robinson. It's a screen or a slip, and how are we going to play Donovan Atwell? Play set up for him, knocks it down.
Edmonds retaliates for the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, that's just too easy. Just go straight up.
Yeah, Picasso would have been a bad free throw shooter.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. He might have shot it from the elbow.
8.5 in the game, 1 point TCU lead, and it throws.
Now, you don't want to foul now. You just want to play. You just want to play down to 10 seconds and block out when that shot goes up if you're Texas Tech.
They will let it ride down to 5. Robinson's open behind the defense for a jam. Petty almost got there.
Now you want to get him.
No foul in the backcourt. TCU wouldn't have minded that foul. And Robinson denied. Lost it. Edmonds sweeps it up.
Game's going again and have to free up Christian Anderson more often than not. There's no doubt about it. And you need more from LaJuan Watts, especially on the defensive end.
That'll do it. They'll count that. They'll check at the monitor just to make sure. But TCU with another top 10 win.
This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. You're listening to us, Big 12 Today, exclusively on TuneIn, watching us on Big 12 Studios. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, and we are not debuting, but
we're debuting.
Well, you guys have been doing this show for a while. This is the staple as we welcome in Sydney Staples, part of the All-State Across the Conference series, which will be airing, new to us, on Big 12 Radio, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But you guys have been doing this show for how many months?
4.
A while. A long time.
Yeah. Honestly, we've bonded a lot since. You know?
No, for sure. We got off to a rocky start, but things
Rocky?
have settled in.
Why are you calling it rocky? I think we had a wonderful start. And an even more wonderful happening. I don't know. Yes, for months.
I mean, to be fair, we got off to a rocky start as well. And this is my
It's
man.
been a rocky 2 years.
Ups and downs. Life is full of adventures. So
it's like a work husband and a work wife here. This is kind of bizarre.
I know. I feel like you're cheating on me a little bit. We'll discuss at a later date. But tell us about Across the Conference, because you guys talked with the KU baseball coach recently. You're getting ready to film another one coming up for this week. I mean, you guys are talking to like all the best athletes and coaches in the across the conference.
Isn't that like a really good title for it?
It's perfect.
I love that for us. In short, we talk about all of the Olympic sports that don't include men's basketball.
And football.
Yeah, well, that's not an Olympic sport.
I know, but I don't know.
Flag football is about to be an Olympic sport. That's a whole nother conversation and topic.
But really, the show within the show is you have to follow Sydney and I on Instagram, because Sydney is the engineer of some of the most hilarious, making me look
like an old geezer,
like just making fun of me videos.
Right.
So at RE Sports, at whatever Sydney's handle is,
Sydney Staples.
Because that's like the show within the show. In fact, I've got people that follow me on Instagram. They're like, "Oh, your new co-host is great." I'm like, "Well." Like, I don't even think they think, like, Sydney's, it's a different show. It's the radio show we do. So we figured, let's invite Sydney on, see if we can get some of that magic on this show.
Well, I can see how uncomfortable you are in real time, which I personally am thoroughly enjoying.
And see now, because Sydney, like, sets up, like, her phone, filming us the entire time. And you'd like to think I'd become more conscientious of it. The problem is, like, you are for a few minutes, and then it kind of blends in with the rest.
Yeah, you forget about it.
And I'm like constantly looking for like, man, don't make yourself look stupid or dumb. And then there I am making myself look stupid and dumb.
I mean, I forget about the camera half the time on Big 12 Studios.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. You guys are radio, though. So, like, I can, there's camera elements. But, like, us, I remember when we started the show, you were like, there's a camera that you have to placate to far more, and across the conference than what you do here. And then you add
basically, she's like, when we started, you had no idea to do these cameras.
So you guys are using these same 3 cameras?
Yep. They're so cute. Here's the difference, okay? Right now, I typically sit in your chair. We shifted over a little bit. What's even better with this setup right now is that you are in the middle of 2 people that love to give you a hard time. And so, therefore, I think this may be my new favorite show.
So let's get on with the staple, shall we?
Okay, tell us, what is the staple?
Okay, so here's the thing. You guys you open the show with like a happiness is a choice, right? Well, when you think of something being a staple, it's not a choice, okay? This isn't. This segment is not going to be a choice for anybody anymore on Tuesdays whenever I come in. And I want to talk things that are what are staples in sports, and then maybe, since it's going to end the show, a fun little kicker afterwards.
Okay.
Because
I like it.
I knew you would. And here's the thing, if you didn't,
it didn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Because remember, happiness is a choice, but this segment no longer is on Tuesdays. But okay, so you guys talked a lot about the draft today. And everybody and their mother is curious what's going to happen. There's 32 franchises. Who all is going to be taken in the draft? I want to make it more Big 12, though, right? I want y'all's opinion of what do you two believe is the staple quality that a potential draftee, a guy on the board, must possess to get drafted in the 7 rounds?
James?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. I would say it starts with the want to factor, which we talked a little bit about earlier today. You can watch billions of hours of tape. You can have all the measurables, arm length and 40 time and shuttle drill, all that stuff. But to me, I would draft a prospect based off of essentially their off the field interviews. Like all these teams can have these, what are they, top 30 visits?
Top 30 visits, yep.
Yeah, where they can bring in 30 prospects.
So you can visit with whoever you want at the combine, but then only 30 players can come in on a top 30 visit.
Right, like kind of like hosting a recruiting visit for college athletics. So that's probably where I would do most of my evaluation is what are these guys like? You get a feel for what somebody's like as a teammate as they interact with the other 29 guys that are there. What are they like when I press them on something? So I look at guys in the Big 12 that are going to get drafted high, like Jacob Rodriguez and David Bailey. Like I have no questions about their want to, and do they check all those boxes in terms of effort, and does this guy truly like playing football, or is it just a job? That's the part in my brain that I would try to separate when I look at prospects.
See, and I'm going to go the opposite, and not because I don't think it's important. I think it's really hard to gauge in an interview. You know, I've always thought like job interviews are hilarious because you're not really dating, rather you're not really, and it's true with like dating too. Like you're not really dating that person, you're dating a representative of that person. That's a Chris Rock joke. Ooh. And it's the same in a job interview. You know, like it's like if there's a camera set up, like I'm going to play to the camera. If there's a job interview, I'm going to play to what the interviewee wants to hear. Now, with that being said, I think what you mentioned is paramount importance. But the staple for me would be the film. The eye in the sky does not lie. And I think a lot of guys will get drafted based on potential and traits and raw ability. And especially for a first-round pick that's going to hear their name called on Thursday, like I am, what have you shown me on film? Because that is what I'm going to go off of that will translate. There's so much of this, like this is what it could be, and it could be that, but this isn't art. This is sports. It's cut or dried, and I want to see the guys that aren't what could be, but what is.
Yeah. CBS Sports had a recent mock draft where they ranked all 32 guys and where they'd be drafted based off of college production alone. And Jacob Rodriguez was number 2. And he's projected to go late first, as far down as like late second round. But he's number 2 on the what did you do in college? What did you do in terms of production?
And he's probably at the top of the list, too, of what you talked about in terms of, so both of our staples for this would be Jacob Rodriguez to a T. What you've done and what your motivations are.
So we would draft Jacob Rodriguez number 1.
Oh, my goodness. Is he going to Las Vegas?
No. Definitely not. I mean, he might be, just not with the first overall pick.
Of course not. But okay, so here's what I think is really interesting, James, about what you were saying is more so the intangibles, you know? And I agree with you that is so hard to gauge because how do you gauge that over film? I know me, back in high school, even in college, I wasn't the best test taker. Like, you know, whenever you have A, B, C, D, multiple choice, this is what would always happen to me. I would cross off the 2 that absolutely couldn't be the answer. Let's say that leaves me B and C. You want to know which one I always picked?
C.
Okay, let's say C. Yeah, because that was blah, blah, blah. It would always be the one that, like, the other one that I could have circled after I had crossed off A and D, that was the right one. Like, so I struggled in that, like, testing environment. So let's say that was going to be an option for me. I think I would maybe crumble under the pressure a little bit there. And then it's like, well, wait a second. I'm so good at football. I can do this, but this one little thing in one little interview, one snippet in time, one 10-minute piece of whatever, and that's what you're going to gauge me on. It's such a toughie.
Well, and I think a lot of times in job interviews specifically, like there's a confirmation bias thing happening, which is like if I like this person, I've liked their tape, I like their measurables.
You want them to be smart.
I want them to interview well. And so I'm asking questions, and if the opposite is true too, if maybe I don't like this guy's tape or I've heard some negative things about him, now I'm gearing that interview towards trying to set that person off, and both could be false tells. That's the thing is I feel like the NFL teams put so much stock into those interviews because of their own egos. Well, I can tell. I know what I'm doing. I'm better at the psychological aspect. And like, I'm sure there are guys that had really bad interviews that end up becoming all pro NFL players. And I'm sure there are guys that had great interviews that flamed out.
I'd have Dr. Phil do my interviews.
Interesting.
He knows.
What
He would
question
know.
would you want Dr. Phil to ask you?
I mean, Dr. Phil would just do Dr. Phil things.
What are Dr. Phil things? As
Yeah,
somebody that really doesn't
describe.
watch
I
the
mean,
Dr.
he
Phil
would
show or
be able
subscribe to the Dr. Phil,
break down these people and their psychology, and he would have them unraveled right there in real time, and I could tell who I want to draft.
I'd go Dr. Oz.
Thought about Dr.
Yeah,
Oz.
Dr. Oz, better than Dr. Phil.
Wouldn't go Dr. Death. That'd be a bad move.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to be in the same room as him, especially if he's performing surgery.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
Do you guys know who Dr. or Doofenshmirtz is?
What?
Who?
Wow, this is really telling of y'all's age. Seriously?
Dr. Who?
Do we know Dr.
Well, we are 40.
Evil Incorporated? Phineas and Ferb on Disney Channel?
Oh, yeah, my kids watch that.
That's where, like, he and the platypus battle it out. Perry the platypus.
My 10-year-old and 7-year-old love that show.
Oh, thank you for aging me.
Well, it does actually. The times in which I've kind of eavesdropped into that show, I've enjoyed it. But, you know.
What about Doc McStuffins?
Ooh, is that
Disney staple?
Is it?
It
Are
is.
you a big Doc McStuffins fan?
I don't even know who Doc McStuffins
Apparently, yeah, it's
Stuffed animal?
no, it's a big, very popular Disney show.
I would be lying if I told you we have not already power ranked the top 5 doctors of all time.
Did we do that?
Yeah. Remember, I forgot. My friend that went to KU with me said you didn't have Dr. Naismith on your list. Are you out of your mind?
is. Doctor, isn't there like a Dr. Dreamy in Grey's Anatomy? Isn't there someone like that? McDreamy?
Yes.
No?
Yep.
I never watched Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, okay. How about this?
We both had Dr. Julius Irving.
AKA Dr. J for short.
Dr. J.
It's called him Dr. Julius Irving before.
Dr. Julius Irving. That's who he was. And he was really good at dunking a basketball.
Can you dunk? I already knew the answer to
Can't
that.
make
I
a
just
free
wanted
throw.
To
We shot that 600 times.
Okay, I can make a free throw.
Can you?
Dunk on 10 feet? Have you seen me?
Hold on. Do you have to like jump when you shoot a free throw, or can you
No.
actually keep both feet on the ground?
I could keep both feet on the ground. Okay, no, I have to jump.
Did
Why
you?
is this? No.
Okay, I didn't.
Why is this an attack on me? No, I can't dunk on 10
Because there
feet.
are, that's the whole point of this now.
I can dunk on 9 feet.
Okay, I'm going
Maybe.
to move this into another direction, the fun direction. What was?
So wait, just so we can prepare it for future weeks, are we
Yeah.
coming with one staple per show?
We'll see.
Yeah,
So, or
Taman
it's-
just gave us the 60-second.
Oh, okay, go. Sorry.
We've got
Oh my
1
God.
minute.
Okay, quick hitters.
It goes faster than you think.
What was? I know this is really incredible. What was your staple cartoon show that you watched when you were growing up? Mine was SpongeBob or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Toss up.
I mean, I still watch The Simpsons and watch that as from a young age.
That fits.
Yeah. What is
Rugrats.
that supposed to mean?
Rugrats. That makes sense.
stop.
It's just a feeling.
Rugrats and Doug, definitely in my wheelhouse. But like I've graduated from that, haven't graduated from The Simpsons.
Okay.
He's got Simpsons tees.
T-shirts.
T-shirts.
Yeah.
Tease. I was like, wow, you tease things about the
That's what I
Simpsons.
was like. I don't
Huh?
tease anything,
Tees
okay?
with a Z. T-shirts. All right, cool. Well, we will look forward to the Across the Conference, which you guys are getting ready to put together. We will air that Wednesdays at 8 Eastern. The Staple is in the books.
Yeah.
With
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday with Sydney Staples, Ari Timken, James Westling, Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side, T-Chains on the audio side. Tomorrow, we've got our BYU and Texas Tech from Saturdays to Sundays. Big 12 in the NFL Draft preview series. That'll be mañana. We'll be back then, 8 to 11 Eastern Time. You've been listening to us on TuneIn, powered by Modelo, watching us on Big 12 Studios.
Peace.
Extra piece.